Welcome to the Endurance Studio podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Turner. I'm an avid ultra-endurance cyclist, bikepacker, and runner, and I'm on a journey to learn and share everything I can about how people can push beyond their limits. This podcast will explore all aspects of endurance through conversations with people I find unique and interesting. There's always an amazing story of accomplishment and failure, and always something to learn. I run this podcast from an off-grid mobile studio I've created so I can travel to the guests and have authentic, in-person conversations because I believe in the importance and power of face-to-face conversations. Thank you for watching and listening.
This episode is brought to you by Embark Good Energy. If y'all have been following me for a while, you'll know that I have a thing for maple syrup, and I'm stoked to announce that I am now an ambassador for Embark Good Energy. They hail from the woods of Wisconsin's Driftless region, and they make amazing organic maple syrup. So I love adding this, what I call rocket fuel, into my bikepacking race mix. There's 3 flavors: salted maple energy, coffee maple energy with 72 milligrams of green tea caffeine, that's my favorite, and elderberry, which can be taken straight up or mixed with water. One 3 fluid ounce pouch has a lab verified 320 calories and 80 grams of carbs. And it's not that garbage maple syrup with high fructose corn syrup. This is 100% organic, great tasting maple syrup. You can use directly from the pack for quick energy, mix it with water for a hydration aid, or use it in camp cooking and even cocktail mixes. They're convenient resealable pouches, so you can have multiple uses while consuming it and avoid sticky messes. So use my unique promo code to get 20% off today. The code is EMBARK20, EMBARK20, for any products online at embarkmaple.com. This episode is brought to you by Squirrel's Nut Butter. Who doesn't need a little extra lube in their life? They make adventure lube. It's the best in the business. I use the saddle butter for riding and the anti-chafe for ultra running. It's all natural ingredients, sustainable packaging, and it's locally manufactured here in Flagstaff, Arizona. And go check out episode number 4 with Chris Thornley. He's the owner and operator of Squirrel's Nut Butter. He's an amazing human, and he's got some really great stories on that podcast. So check him out. You can use my unique promo code, Endurance15, for 15% off any of their products online at squirrelsnutbutter.com, or you can click the link in the description, and it will automatically be applied to your shopping cart. So please use that code. Go buy from them. Let them know that their support of this podcast is paying off for them, and spread that lube love. squirrelsnutbutter.com. And a quick shout out to Jace Gestro. Jace, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. Thank you for becoming our newest YouTube channel member. Today's returning guest is a multifaceted outdoor adventurer and entrepreneur. She's a life coach, founder of Dirt Town Adventures Guiding Company, outdoor educator, and an endurance athlete with a passion for helping others. In today's conversation, we discuss her personal and professional evolution, coaching philosophy, technology and social interaction, personal growth and resilience, and many other topics. I hope you enjoy this conversation, and I am incredibly thankful to sit down again today with Lindsay Nohl. Welcome back to the Endurance Studio.
Thank you. Good to be here again.
I meant to ask you this last time. Is it just like the synergy of the world that your last name is Nohl and you worked for Knowles forever? I mean, what's going on right there?
Yeah.
How many times have you gotten that?
There's been a lot of confusion. I have gotten asked if I own the school many, many times, because it's been 20 years now that I've worked for Knowles. Not as much full-time anymore, but yeah, my claim to fame was one time one of my staff members was getting a credit card to use for like the bank we had here, and on the credit card they spelled the business name Nohls, and I was like, I have arrived. My name is the business.
Yeah, I had to check when I was like writing, typing the scripts and putting your name in all these different places. I just had to like double, triple, quadruple check everything.
Yeah, it's not NOLS or NOL.
Yeah. So so last time you were here in March, or one of the early episodes, we're now on like 34. Happy solstice.
Happy solstice.
By the way.
Cheers.
This campus was, the Knowles campus was, the outlook was they had closed this campus. You weren't sure what was going to happen with this location. What's
Yeah.
the update there?
The update was, or is, that shortly after the podcast, Knowles decided to close 3 campuses at the the school-wide, 3 school-wide locations, including this one. And the hope was to just close them for 2 years. And so that's the Knowles Southwest, Knowles Pacific Northwest, and Knowles Northeast were the 3 that were sort of chosen after a bunch of, crunching of numbers and looking at the bigger picture of enrollment trends and stuff over the last bunch of years. So sadly, this place is officially closed. And the hope is to reopen in 2 years if enrollment picks up school-wide. So there's a big marketing push to try to figure out how to market to a new crop of the world's students these days. And so I came back this winter. I went up to Idaho shortly after we met and spent the summer up there, and came back this winter, and I was lucky enough to be able to come back and hang out down here at the campus again and help sort of caretake the place, the property. And I am not working for Knowles really while I'm down here. I'm doing a couple of little things, but just down in Tucson, doing some mountain bike guiding for homegrown mountain bike tours and coaching. So.
And you were in the process of getting permit approval for your guiding company.
Yeah, last year. Right?
Yeah, for Dirt Town Adventures.
Yep.
Dirt Town Adventures.
Yep.
And you had to get that through it's the Caribou Targhee?
Yep.
Targhee
Yep.
National Forest, and that's the area that does the permitting.
That's the National Forest up in the Teton Valley, the Idaho side of the Tetons.
Okay.
That I was applying for. I submitted an application. They did a prospectus process for all sort of outfitter and guides related to mountain biking, that people that wanted to do anything on the forest. And I found out in, I think it was April or May, that I got selected as one of the permit holders. So I didn't get my permit in hand after all the paperwork and other things that had to happen with the Idaho Outfitter and Guides Licensing Board and all this stuff. But I got permit in hand first week of June. So it was a whirlwind summer, getting websites built and trying to figure out how to do some marketing while also trying to make money to pay bills while I'm starting a business.
Yeah.
So it was a good learning experience. I'm excited for year 2 with a real permit because I have a lot of time to figure out how to hopefully get people on programs and figure out how to get some more guided tourists for guided tours and things like that. So yeah, it was a crazy summer.
So what specifically do you want to change for the second year? Or are you going to do differently?
Well, it would be nice to have a calendar of events, farther out than a week.
Yeah.
And have that sort of posted on my website. And maybe make some flyers and marketing materials and things like that.
Yeah.
And by the time I got my website indexed by Google last year, which took far longer than I thought, they couldn't find me if you did a search. It was probably maybe the second or third week of June, which up there, that's that's the quarter of the mountain bike season.
Okay.
It doesn't last very long up there.
What is that process like? It's just patience, right? Because aren't there crawlers that index?
Yeah.
It's automated somewhat, right?
Yeah, totally.
For Google.
You would think that they would find you once you got it live and you put some stuff on there, but they didn't. So thankfully I had a local bike friend who does SEO work. He helped me out, and he wrote a blog for him and his son run a sunglasses company. It's called DOS Optics. Super cool. And he wrote a blog about my company on his website. Mm-hmm. And the next day, they found me.
So
It was so weird.
Yeah. I remember back in the day, it was like, back in the day with the Google indexing, it was like you would hide a bunch of keywords in the code. Like
Yeah.
you couldn't see it when you went to the website, but you would hide like all these keywords, and that was the way to get indexed better or faster.
Yeah.
And then they caught on to that. I mean, this was probably a decade ago. They caught on to that. And then it's now about like connections.
Yeah.
It's about connections to the website.
They want to know you're legit. But I had like posted links in some other, like on some other websites, but those didn't work. So it was really the blog that sort of clicked in, and it was pretty immediate after that. So that was helpful because the website, if you type the full address in like www. whatever in the search bar, you could find it. But if you just went to Google and tried to search, you couldn't find it. And so that was not helping people find me.
For sure, yeah. I mean, you want to have all the, like, when someone Googles guiding in my area or in this area,
Right.
you want like those organic search results. But that stuff takes forever.
Oh, yeah.
Did you do any paid search? Or
Not yet.
Consider that?
Maybe next. Yeah, I was thinking about for this summer.
Yeah.
But I did coach a bunch of folks. I didn't really have much luck with guided tour stuff last year, which that's just going to, I think, take some time and some connections with, resorts and people where like tourists come and things like that. But I did probably coach about 50 so people through clinics and private lessons, and got some nice, like, good Google reviews and things like that. So that kind of stuff helps too in terms of like legitimizing your business, and people are like, oh, this person, like, people write nice stuff about you. It feels good, and
Totally.
people read those things.
They do.
Yeah.
Did you build your website yourself?
I did,
like,
yeah.
Through like a...
I built it on Squarespace.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I had done. I have a website for my life coaching business too, which I had done on Squarespace as well. So it's actually pretty intuitive if you have some kind of, like, I don't know, computer skills. So
much easier now than it used to be.
oh yeah.
Yeah, it used to be like a black hole vortex of...
Oh yeah.
Because you would have to have a baseline of at least some HTML.
Yeah. I started trying to build my life coach website a few years ago on WordPress, and I was like totally lost and just couldn't do it. And then I was like, I think I'm going to go to Squarespace where they have all these templates for you.
Yeah, I think WordPress excels as a content management system for like bigger organizations. So where you can like control subgroups and how they can publish.
Yeah.
So, but I have a side print business, and also among all the other things that I do. And that's how I got this tent printed, by the way.
Looks good.
Yeah, I got the... Did you see the legs in the video here for the viewers? But I think I used like GoDaddy website builder or something for that. And it's just like, this is easy. Yeah. This is a piece of cake. But like you have to think, I mean, if you could integrate like a scheduling tool or something, or like a booking tool or something like that, there's all that for your particular business that you could benefit from, I would think.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I have a scheduling thing for my life coach business, which is nice, so people can book like free consultations, or usually that's what I use that for before they really become clients. But I have sort of like the online forums where people can, basically the way I try to have people show their interests as they can fill out an online form, and then I get an email, and then we just sort of go back and forth via email or text and figure it out, because sometimes it's hard to schedule something, down to the hour with a tour or something like that. And I'm not big enough yet to need to do it that way. So I don't have any employees at this point.
Yeah. Now, people like different communication styles, right? Like when they're seeking information from you.
Yeah.
Do you adapt to their preferred methods? Like if they call you, do you call them back? Or if they only text you, do you text them back?
Yeah, that's a good
Or are you like
question.
one of those annoying people that when I text them, they call me back?
Oh, yeah. I usually go with the way that they have contacted me.
Okay.
I do not like talking on the phone. I haven't ever, since I was a kid. I remember I used to be scared to call 411 and ask. Back in the day, I'm dating myself here, but you'd call 411 to get information.
This is a deep cut. Yeah. This is a landline deep cut right
exactly.
here. Yeah. What about star 69? Wasn't that it where you could
Star
see?
69?
Yeah.
Was that one?
Maybe that
Sure
got
it
you
was
the wrong
69?
thing. No. I'm not sure about that.
No,
Star
maybe
75?
it was 69.
I think it was 69.
And you could see who called you?
Yeah.
Yeah,
You
that
could
was
see
a
who your
thing.
missed
You remember
call-
that? How old are you?
Yeah. How old am I? 39.
Oh, nice.
Oh my God.
It's a big year for you.
Yeah.
It's going to be 40?
Uh-huh.
Nice, dude.
Yeah.
Welcome to the 40s.
Thanks.
It's all downhill.
Yeah, no, I'm good. I think maybe, we're going to tee up maybe Arizona Trail 800 for my 40th.
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
I
maybe.
like that.
Anyway, deep cut on landlines. So
Yeah, so
411.
anyway, I used to not want to talk to people on the phone. I've
Yeah.
had to do it through work over the years, but I will call people back if they call me,
Yeah.
or I'll text them. I like text, or I actually prefer well, not like through the business, but I'd rather talk to people on Zoom than on an actual phone call where you could like see them and
Really?
interact. Yeah, not for like setting up bookings, but like when I do life coaching calls with clients, like
Yeah.
would much rather be in person or on a Zoom than just like talk to someone on the phone. It's just so hard to read like social cues and I don't know. You just get a sense of people's moods and stuff from their body language. So,
100%.
Yeah.
I have trouble with that through Zoom though.
Oh, really? Well,
yeah.
yeah, it's not as easy.
Yeah,
for
but it's
sure.
like a step there in that direction, but there's still the latency, like the lag issue that I
Yeah.
have with Zoom that you don't get on like a landline.
Oh, yeah.
You know, where
The like weird space gap, and then you feel like you have to say something else, and then you're
Right.
sort of talking over each other. Yeah, if the
Right.
connection's bad, that can be.
well, and I like that's why I'm on this podcast. Why I specifically am like doing it in this format because I spent enough time on Zoom through my day job that I was just like, ugh. I actually had like a desire to have an in-person conversation.
Yeah.
As a utility, it's great, and I've said this before, but like I think it's a fantastic utility to like get things done, get tasks done that need to be done in person, or sorry, over like a remote connection. But I always thought there, like even pre-COVID and pre the blow up of Zoom, there was a reason why people, when they were doing like big business deals, they would like international business deals, they would like fly
Yeah.
to another country just to shake the person's hand and show their commitment
Yeah.
of that deal that they were doing or whatever. So like for this podcast, I feel like if I were to do, I honestly feel like if I were to do Zoom on this, I would feel like a sellout for myself just because having it be like this bigger deal that takes more like organization and more, it makes it more impactful for me. And I actually like focus more, like prep for it more. I see it as a bigger thing that I'm putting together with someone else, an event.
Yeah, you got to like commit to getting somewhere, showing up all the equipment, and
Yeah.
yeah, I think.
So
that
on
makes
my
sense.
side, I think that commits it differently. And then on the guest side, it's definitely a different vibe.
Oh, for sure.
Particularly, I think people are more relaxed and honest when they're in person.
Yeah.
And you can be a lot more shielded. Some people are great they're fantastic people that do Zoom.
Yeah.
They're really talented. I've witnessed it.
Yeah.
But like I feel like 90% of people that use it are just like, like
Yeah.
because you can't like pick up like you can see the social cues, but you can't pick up. I don't know. There's like also something in the air that you just can't pick up.
Well, there's like humans have these like energy fields,
Right.
right? And you sort of vibe off each other's energy for sure. It's harder to do that on Zoom,
Right.
for sure. I don't know. I think you're doing it the right way. And I think one thing probably collective humanity learned through the COVID crisis was it's just really nice to like be near other people, right? And have human connection.
Yeah.
And not be sort of like on the other side of screens. I think the screens allow for, remote work. People have more flexibility in life and there's other benefits there. But I do think the world's changed probably in a little bit of a negative way from that. Just workplaces being like everyone's remote. There's just less connection and, bringing people together. Like, I don't know, that stuff is more rare than it used to be. And I think people are like craving that in any way they can get, right?
Some people, most people,
Well,
right? Like most people I think need it, but like there are a few people out there that actually during COVID were like, hell yeah, I don't ever have to go to the grocery store again. I can just have it delivered.
people still pick up their
Oh,
groceries.
I do.
You do?
Oh, I hated it before COVID. Like it was a mission. It was like, we're going to have a list and we're going to do this as efficiently as possible so that I'm not a window shopper. I'm not like, I want this and maybe that'll look good. And I'm just like pushing my cart down the aisle. That was not my standard operating procedure in the grocery store. It was like, we're getting this, and this. And so now it's like, I can do it even faster and more efficient.
Interesting.
By just having them like, I can just do it on my phone and they can just load that shit in my trunk. And I'm out of there. You know what I mean? And I don't want to like see people and have like weird conversations for people I kind of know but don't really know.
Yeah.
Because I mean, it's a small town.
Well,
and, like it's lot of people work at NAU.
Yeah.
And so the chances you're going to see somebody that you know or like kind of peripherally know. So
it's funny, like the grocery store scene, because I've lived in like Lander, Wyoming, small town. Like I remember I used to like joke with friends being like, all right, how many people you think you're going to see that you know when you go to the grocery store? Or like Driggs, Idaho, same. And then in Tucson, it's a whole different scene. Like I ran into Scott Morris and Lindsay Shepard at the Safeway I shop at here.
No way.
Because they're like around camping in Tucson right now. And I remember they were like, hey, and I'm like, oh my God. I never see anyone I know in the grocery stores in Tucson because it's like 1 million people here. And I don't know that many people in Tucson, which was super funny. So we had a good laugh of that. But I don't know. It's funny you say that. It made me think back to COVID, like real COVID times, back when everyone was sort of in masks and like you weren't really interacting with people. And I remember a bunch of times, and I was recovering from my brain injury at the time, and I have been single since that time. So I was living alone, sort of like on the recovery train and not really interacting with a lot of people and working from home. And I would go to the grocery store to like just go out and like interact and have humans around me, which was like crazy. That was like my outing, and I like felt like I needed to do something. Like I don't even know if I needed food, but I was like, I'm sure I can go find something to buy. And that's a pretty, I don't know, that's like sort of a rare, like I'd never had that in my life before. But I was just so solo and during that time, and obviously it's different now, but I don't know. It's interesting.
I mean, I want the social connection, but I found it, I prefer it in a different method, which is like,
for sure.
The podcast specifically has helped me to like have an excuse to have all those connections, right? But they're more fulfilling than like the grocery store connection.
Oh, for sure.
And so I'm almost like engineering the social connections that I have so that they're like maximizing the time that I'm spending on doing that. They're the most fulfilling.
Yeah, I mean, you think about one-on-one conversations versus like a grocery store chit chat, or I think about going to like a big party. Like I do not prefer like big parties where I don't know lots of the people there, because it's sort of awkward, right? And you're like, oh, what do I say to this person? And it feels like this weird small talk stuff. Much prefer the like one-on-one connections or like hanging out with a small group of people. So I can totally like appreciate that.
At parties, I just latch onto one person usually.
Yeah, the whole time.
I like just Velcro onto them annoyingly and just like won't shut up.
Don't leave me.
Yeah. I find something that I have like a tiny little thread of something in common with, like the tiniest little thing, and I'll just like hammer that home.
Yeah.
Because I want to get out of there.
Yeah.
Or I think my sweet spot, like socially, is maybe like eight or less people.
Yeah.
That's like a great group. I guess I'm most practiced at it through like leadership at work.
Yeah.
But anything bigger than that, I start to kind of get like, as it gets bigger, I start to get like more protective or shielded of my information and myself.
Yeah.
Right. And then the smaller that goes down to the person, the more open I become.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which is interesting because like a format like this, you're at like a one-on-one level, but you're broadcasting it to whoever the hell wants to listen.
Right.
Yeah.
And
so it gives you the benefit of that like one-on-one conversation.
Yep.
At least for me, it gives and I think that that's what I appreciated about podcasts as I was, getting into the podcast world or listening to podcasts, whatever, 8 years ago or whatever, was you felt like you were sitting there with them.
Yep.
And I really latched onto that.
Yeah.
So, but have you heard of, what is it, Dunbar's number? Like it's like the amount of people you can keep in your head in your social circles.
Oh, no, I have not.
I think it's like 70 people or something.
Oh, wow.
So there's like these concentric circles that go out, and it's like your close group of people, and then like a larger group of people that are like your close social contacts, maybe like people you work with.
Yeah.
Or extended family members or something like that. And then there's another layer out, and then everything after that, basically, you like have trouble, like above 70, or I forget the magic number. But you just can't.
Like can't maintain.
You just can't maintain the
No.
social connections anymore with people.
Right.
Like you just
It's
can't keep them in your head.
overwhelming.
And you have to
Yeah.
one's got to leave for a new one to come in.
Oh, interesting.
Basically, because it's like, and it all goes back to like a tribal scenario where there were self-regulating numbers based on availability of food.
Oh, interesting.
For tribes. And so as we evolved in these groups of like 70, it might be like 100. I'm going to try something. Hey Siri, what's Dunbar's number?
Dunbar's number is a suggested cognitive limit to the number of people with whom one can maintain stable social relationships. This number was first proposed in the 1990s by British anthropologist Robin Dunbar, who found a correlation between primate brain size and average social group size. The number is commonly known as 150.
Okay, thank you, Siri. I don't need a producer.
Wow, that was a
So
sign of the
150.
times right there.
You know what I heard? So I've always, I have these conversations, and I'm wishing I had somebody that was, over there in the corner
Holding
on a
up cue
computer
cards.
that was like Googling stuff for me to like fact check and like
Yeah.
bring up stuff like the professional.
That's what Brady's supposed to be doing.
Yeah. Dude, come on.
What are you
Pull your
doing?
weight,
Yeah.
Brady. He's just getting pets.
That's all he wants.
Come on, dog.
I know.
But so, soon it's just going to be like a monitor over there, and it's going to be listening to our conversation
Oof.
and just auto putting information up
You're
on the
gonna
screen.
have an AI bot that just
Mm-hmm.
follows you around for podcasts.
It's going to be awesome. It's the future. But anyway, so why were you, back to the phone thing? Why did you not like talking on the phone as a child?
That's a great question. I don't know.
Did you have a bad experience?
I don't know. I actually don't know if I know the answer to that.
Was it just uncomfortable?
Yeah, I was like scared to ask for things, or I didn't want to call and like order pizzas. I remember as an adult, I was working for Knowles in their fundraising department, and one of the tasks each year was to do like a phone-a-thon where you call people up and ask for money.
Ugh.
We did that for like 2 days a year, and then we did a thank-a-thon, which you like call people and thank them for their gift. But it was like torture.
Ugh.
Like my literal worst nightmare was to like call people at like dinner time and try to like chat with them and ask for money on the phone. I was like,
Oh,
I don't know. I had like some PTSD or something. I don't know. Maybe I did get like yelled at on the phone or something. I don't really know.
do you remember when you were on the phone on the landlines and you could hear somebody else pick up another phone in the house?
Oh yeah.
It'd be like you'd be talking to your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever, or a prospect, and then and your parents would pick up the phone
Yeah.
and listen into your conversation.
Yeah.
You'd be like, "Mom, get off the phone."
So awkward.
Yeah.
I just remember like, yeah.
Or three-way calls.
Oh yeah, three-way calls.
Yeah.
Those are pretty good.
Yeah.
You can still do that on cell phones.
Really?
Three-way calls. I've done it. Yeah. You can get a third person and click them in.
Huh.
Yeah.
It just doesn't seem like
No one
a
really does
popular
it
thing
anymore
to
because
do.
no one talks on the phone anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, how much do you talk on the phone?
Ooh, man. So I talk on. I try to avoid at all costs.
Exactly.
I can do it. It just drains me.
Yeah.
It's so funny that you're like you're. I wouldn't have expected that from you. You've got like this hidden introvert inside of you,
Probably. Yeah, a little bit, I guess.
but you seem very like your leadership background and all is very. You have to be extroverted to live in that world.
Yeah, I mean, I like being around people. I think I just probably crave more of the actual human, like in-person human connection is probably the case. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm better on the phone than I'm on Zoom for sure. I think I already said that, but I could like just talk people's ears off on the phone.
Interesting.
Yeah. I think it's genetic. It comes from my grandma.
Oh, that's funny. I mean, do you feel like there's like a shield because people can't see you, so it makes it easier to talk on the phone than it does on Zoom?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I like put my feet up when I'm on the phone and I'm like, like, oh, hey, yeah, we'll get that done for you right away,
You're probably you're a Zoom person that turns your camera off.
100%. I can't have my self view on either because I get all self-conscious.
Right.
I think that's a real problem with Zoom. Like to auto turn, you should have to turn on the self view instead of it auto default on.
Right.
Because how weird is it to be like, it'd be like holding a mirror up right there next to you.
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at myself while I'm talking to you.
Yeah, that would be really
so
distracting.
Fucking weird. It's so unnatural. I don't know why they didn't like engineer that out right away. Like, I guess you want to see what you're presenting.
Yeah, you want to make sure you have like clothes on and stuff.
Yeah, like because you just forgot. You have to be able to see yourself to remember you did that.
Right.
I don't know. It just doesn't.
Yeah, it's very distracting.
And then you have like a grid of like, 14 people all just like staring at you.
Yeah.
And they're not really paying attention. They're just like
everyone's doing other things.
doing their email over here or whatever in their other screen.
I know.
Yeah. Like I don't know. Like it definitely unlocked a lot of potential, but it also came with a lot of weird social. It revealed a lot of things about myself that I didn't quite understand.
Yeah.
Until it would just drain me.
Yeah. Well,
dude, like
it's good to realize those things, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't need to do that in my life if it drains you that much, right?
Well, I had to do it though.
Yeah.
For like it was a requirement.
Right.
And I just fought against like, do I really need to be in this? The only thing I could be in was like a meeting that was super engaging.
Yeah.
It had to be like a very engaging meeting.
And this was the job that you have now, but you had to be on Zoom because it was like COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because
people didn't really have a choice back then.
Well,
that was the only way.
Yeah. And I'm in middle management, so like everything above me was done on Zoom, but everything below, as far as the hierarchical structure, was a physical job that had to be done in printing.
Yeah.
So that was real hands-on and in person still.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like,
you were doing both.
Half of me was
nice.
in person and half of me was in this.
That's
kind
nice
of weird.
that you could still have like some day-to-day human interaction.
I'm pretty sure it was the only thing that got me like through COVID.
Yeah.
Was having that the reality of the hands-on, and that's why I still like that job, is because you're actually like, at the end of the day, it's all about like making something. And I think that that's so important to like have your hands on something that you're creating and making. And if you don't have a job that you can like tangibly see a thing that you produce by the end of it, I think you just get into these weird kind of like lethargy bubbles or whatever, where you're not feeling like you're ever moving the needle at all.
Yeah, you're so far removed from the actual mission of what you're doing.
Yeah.
Like, so when I worked down here at Knowles for a long time, I eventually became the director here. So I was, in charge of the staff that basically lived here, that supported the groups of people that would come on site. And granted, we had groups coming in, and so I had interactions with courses and stuff. But I think what sort of kept me going and allowed me to stay in that job for so long was like, I would at least get out and teach like 1, maybe 2 courses a year, where I was actually going out as an instructor in the field with the groups and teaching the curriculum and doing the things and facilitating all the challenges. And that was the thing that, would bring me back to like, okay, when I'm sitting behind my computer and I'm spending like, 10 hours a day doing the budget and trying to figure out how to like make ends meet with money for next year, I'm doing it because down the line, like, 10 steps down the line, like this person's going to show up on this course and they're going to have this like, hopefully like life altering experience at this school.
Right.
But without that, if I'd not been able to go into the field, like, I'm not sure I would have stayed in that position for so long, because you just feel really removed and you're like disconnected from the day-to-day mission of the place. And not to say you can't still do your job well, but for sure it helped me.
Yeah.
I think
And for corporations, it's not just as simple as like putting the mission statement on a wall vinyl.
Yeah. Right.
You know, you have to have like this buy-in from these people.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They have to understand the mission, right? And you understood it because you saw it.
Well, yeah, you have
Like
to feel the impacts of what you're doing. I think
Yeah.
if you're so far removed from the actual impacts, then it feels really hard. Like, oof, yeah.
Yeah. And a lot of people get kind of, I don't know. I know that there's like tons of, I've witnessed a lot of that in a big government, state organization that I work at.
Yeah.
Like you just see a lot of disconnection. And,
Right.
I don't know. And that's why I've actually opted to not, I've opted to kind of stay like in the industry that I'm in because I appreciate that it forces me to keep
Yeah.
making something every day. I think it's also like my dad, he was a carpenter. He was very hands-on his whole life. He made his own business. He had his own business for many years, like 30 years, like my whole life. And I think like some of that's kind of programmed into me a little bit.
Yeah.
And this is my own way of doing it, like it's a hands-on job. I mean, he was a carpenter. I work with printing. We both work with trees in a different way.
That's awesome. I love that.
Yeah. And so, but we're making something that at the end of the day, we walk in and we know exactly what we needed to get done every day.
Yeah.
And we problem solve all day long, right? Because like it's fraught with peril as far as equipment going down and people not showing up.
Right.
And all the things that happen in like a small company.
Challenge
So,
solving.
because we're kind of like, the place I work for is like a small little remote unit inside of the bigger organization. So we operate like somewhat like a small business, but where we have like our own budget and stuff, and it operates somewhat like a small business. But then it's like within this like mega corporation, school that we support. So it's like its own ecosystem. It's like its own city. You would think of it like its own city, and it's got,
Yeah.
That's what's interesting about universities is they are cities. They're mini cities inside of cities.
Self-contained.
Yep, because they have rec centers and
Yeah.
food places and dormitories and print shops, and they have all the support systems.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's a weird place to be in. But I feel like I kind of followed in his footsteps a little bit in that way. And just in kind of my own way of doing it, I get a pension. That's the difference, right? Because he didn't get have his own business for 30-something years.
Right.
There's no pension in that. So
Yeah, good job.
How
many more years you got?
20. I mean, good job. Give me some time here.
Yeah.
But like, back to what I was saying, I intentionally didn't like move up the ranks or into different areas because I really was like, I like showing up and being like, I got 20 things to do today. I'm gonna get these 20 things done, and it's gonna push us towards the mission of the print shop, which is the mission of the university.
Yeah.
And support that in that way, right?
Yeah, and it's an interesting thing in workplaces. A lot of times, the farther you like, the more responsibility and the more higher paying jobs moves you farther and farther away from the actual thing that you're doing at the organization and the impact. And so, like, I found that as I came to like Knowles, and I started working for the school in 2003, and I was like, I want to be an outdoor educator. And then I slowly just I always sort of had an in-town job as I was at the school, just to like make it be a full-time job for myself instead of just contract work. But the longer I lasted at the school, the farther and farther away I got from actually teaching field courses. It was really interesting. It was sort of like, I came to the school to like take people out in the wilderness, and now I am on my computer like a lot of the day. So I think that happens at lots of places because people want to like make a livable wage and support a family, and you need to like make more money, and to make more money you take on more responsibility, and that often moves you farther and farther away from the actual thing of the corporation. So it's interesting. So it's like cool when you can sort of find a sweet spot where you can have a little bit of both and have like a stable income and still feel like you're close enough to the actual thing, and not give in to the urge to just take on a different role and move up the ranks because you're like potentially not going to be happy in the job or at that place anymore, right?
Yeah.
So
It seems like also there's another X factor coming, and that's like AI.
yeah,
Taking some of those more white collar jobs, the more management, maybe not, but definitely like AI is unable to be blue collar because robotics, you need robotics for that, right? But AI, at least I've seen it in my industry,
yeah,
AI is going to take graphic design jobs, TV production jobs, creative jobs, writing,
yeah.
a lot of that stuff right
Oh,
away,
yeah.
soon. It's already taking it, right?
I use AI to write things.
Yes, right. So and those were typically like non-blue collar jobs. They were like specialized
Yep.
to a certain extent. Do you think that there's any possibility of AI affecting like management or leadership? Or do you think that's like a specifically human thing?
I'm sure it will influence things in some way. I don't know if I have the vision of what that could look like. But I've been really surprised so far. We all sort of read about AI as it was coming, being like, this is going to take people's jobs. And I was like, well, to a point or whatever. And then I was playing around with something the other night with ChatGPT. Like I had stumbled upon something about like AI doing therapy and like on a Reddit thread.
Whoa.
And basically I was like, I'm going to try this out. And I like cut and pasted. Someone had written up this sort of like, this is how I want you to show up as a therapist, sort of like some criteria of how they would have empathy and blah, 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 and whatever. So I cut and pasted that into the ChatGPT and then just started at just said, here's what's going on for me. And proceeded to like go back and forth with
Whoa.
AI about like some certain specific life topic. And it was fascinating.
Really?
It was actually, I would say, surprisingly good. Like the chat bot or whatever you would call it, asked really good questions back, like ones that make you think. And I think it was set up because of the like initial sort of, this is how I want you to show up as a therapist type like statement, rather than just typing a question into like ChatGPT off the cuff. But I was like blown away. Like it sort of blew my mind as someone who's, has a life coaching business and, thinking like, well, you want to, like as a life coach, my job is to ask really good questions and to try to get people to like figure out what is going on for them so that they can move forward on some life goal or challenge or new career or whatever it is. And you think like, well, that's probably something that can't be replaced because it's a human asking you things. And then I was sort of like, oh, wow,
That's wild.
It was wild.
Because you wouldn't think it would be able to nail it.
No, it wasn't.
This early.
It was sort of nailing some. I mean, it was just asking really thought-provoking questions. It's weird to type back and forth to like a computer screen.
Yeah. I mean, that'll eventually change, though. It'll be like
there'll be like
a deep fake that'll look so good, and they'll get the mouth right because the mouth is always the problem.
Yeah, right.
Right, but they'll get that right soon. I mean, we're talking within 5 years, right? So you'll be like interacting with potentially like having a Zoom call with a chatbot that you can see that looks like a real person.
Yeah.
And and they already got the response part down, right? But do you think like when you go to a psychologist, isn't some of their baggage part of the experience that you have?
What kind of psychologist are you seeing?
Don't they all basically like go into it because they got something wrong with themselves? I know that's a blanket statement, but God. I'm joking.
No. I mean, there's
a human experience.
There's
a
human experience, and I think there is a piece of people bringing their own personalities to the conversation.
Yeah. Because if you can like tell it what you want it to show up like, isn't that fraught with problems? Like you can now engineer your own therapy session.
Yeah,
right?
That's just what I did. It was weird.
But you could do it for the outcomes that you want, when you walk into a therapist's office, you can't necessarily do that.
Well, this AI bot wasn't telling me what to do. It was just asking the right questions, which is what a good therapist should do. It's what a good life coach should do.
Whoa.
The whole premise of coaching is it's not consulting. So consulting is like giving people answers from expert places, right? That's what people hire consultants for.
Like absorbing all the information of the situation
from an expert.
As a subject matter expert, and then providing a
the consultant
solution.
will be like, here's what I think you should do, right? Whatever. Coaching is, listening to the person, having them explain situations or vent or whatever, or talk through what's a challenge, and then sort of using your intuition to ask the right questions to get that person to uncover more information, or asking questions or coming up with a plan about how they should proceed. But the coach, and often the therapist, should not be saying, well, you've told me this and you should go do this, 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 and this. How much buy-in is that person going to have when someone's coming up with a plan for them?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
that's the whole premise of like why you would want to hire a coach, is like the belief is that the answers are inside the person. I'm not telling that person what to do. So like your psychologist question is like, if they're good, they shouldn't necessarily be bringing their experience per se to the conversation. I mean, I do think there's learning that humans have that gives them intuition to make a statement and saying, hey, you're saying this, like, is there something else there? What else is going on? Or like there's pieces of, I guess, experience that would come into play with asking questions, or maybe like, mirroring back what they're seeing. But if you're good, you're probably not like telling people what to do. Does that make sense?
Totally.
Yeah. So
yeah. So if you're a life coach, you're like a really nice, thoughtful, caring, like con artist. It sounds like. No, I didn't mean that. I'm joking. So no, but I mean like you're able to like respond. You're able to like respond off what they're saying and like guide them into this path, right? And that's literally like what con artists do, like for nefarious purposes. It's the same. Like, stay with me here. It's the same. Don't
I'm
get
gone.
offended.
I'm out.
No. But I mean, like, okay, so I have a skill that I've found where I'm able to,
Your con artist skill
in a leadership setting, be somewhat of a, like it's almost like you can manipulate a situation, and can you do it you can manipulate someone for a nefarious reason or for a positive reason, right? So you can like react to what they're saying, and you can like kind of like nudge them towards this one thing with like the questions you ask, or like the situation that you put them in. Or so like if you're trying to solve a problem with an employee, for example, if they come to you with a problem, you have a choice to make. You can either like give them the solution, or you can like figure out how to guide them, teach them to fish instead of giving them the fish, right?
Well, you're trying to get them to do the solution that you want without just telling them. Is that what you're saying?
No, not necessarily. Okay. No, because then then you wouldn't be, as a leader, open to maybe a different possibility for the solution.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Right?
Yes.
But I mean, there's some manipulation happening here. Manipulation isn't necessarily a bad word here, right? Is what I'm saying. Like when you're coaching someone, you're like, you want them to find the light themselves, right? Right. Find the pathway themselves.
That they're going to buy into. Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Because then it's like, it's like the movie Inception. Like you want them to have the idea, because then they're going to be fully bought into that idea, right?
Yeah.
So there's manipulation there. Like you are kind of like nudging them in this way,
Yeah, maybe
it's
interesting
the wrong
word choice, because it's like I see what you're saying, and I think manipulation has such a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
Whereas what you're saying is like coaching, right?
Yeah.
It's like asking.
Manipulation's the bad word.
Maybe.
Coaching's
I don't know.
word.
I'd have to look it up. We should ask Siri.
Yeah.
It's manipulation of negative connotation.
Hey Siri, what's the definition of manipulation?
Manipulation means the the action of manipulating something in a skillful manner. Do you want to hear the remaining?
See, there's no negative connotation.
Yeah,
there.
I think
All right.
I think it's been like co-opted
It has been,
negatively,
yeah.
right? And con artist is definitely
Yeah.
a negative word. Like,
Exactly.
but I mean, like, people do that all the time to get what they want out of other people. They'll coat that, they'll trick them into doing things, and then people are like, I don't even know what I was thinking. How did I get like tricked into doing
Right.
this thing for this person?
Yeah.
And it's in a bad way, right? That's all I'm saying. What's the most common issue people come to you when they're seeking coaching?
Ooh, also good question. Let me think about that one. It's funny because I've had a variety of different coaching clients, and I wouldn't say there's been a total theme, but I'd say if you zoom out, this is sort of what coaching helps with, is like, I'm stuck, like, and I want to make a big change in some way, and move my life forward, and I feel like I'm not progressing, and I'm not doing it on my own, and I need help. And so it's really about this sort of feeling. I'm sure, everyone out there has felt like you get into this chapter of your life where you're like, is this it? Like, I'm stuck. I'm not doing anything. I'm not growing. I'm not progressing, and I don't know how to change.
Why does it feel so bad to be stuck and not progress?
I know.
It's probably for a psychologist, but
Well, I sort of think it has a lot. I mean, it has a lot to do with what else is going on in your life, to where, like, every influence or every part of your life, whether it's like your finances, your relationship with your family or your partner or your friends, where you live, all those things come into play. And sometimes people, like, I was living in a situation for many years in the same job with the same partner in the same place and not stuck, and I just felt like this is great. And I stayed in that same thing. And then, life gets in the way, and eventually something happens, or eventually you get to a place where you're like, all right, I've been doing the same thing for 7 or 8 years now, and I haven't done anything different. And then the feeling of stuckness potentially comes up. Mm-hmm. Or you could feel like maybe you've only been in a situation for like a year or 6 months, and you're like, oof, this is like not working. And it just doesn't feel good, right? Or
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I should be doing something else. And like all these other influences in your life can have a role in you feeling that way or not. So I think the stuckness it's a lot of how you talk to yourself or perceive your situation too, like your mental self-talk on what's going on in your life on a day-to-day basis.
yeah.
Like, yeah.
Is it in our, to be stagnant, I guess would be another word for that? Is it like in our DNA, I guess, to want to keep actionable, like keep doing something? Like what is that?
Yeah.
Is that a survival thing?
Right.
To keep moving, keep pushing things forward, keep doing something different,
Yeah.
keep discovering, keep adventuring, the hero's journey,
Right.
This whole thing
Yeah.
is all interconnected.
Oh, for sure. I think there probably is. It's so hard to tease it out where that comes from, the motivation or the want for that. But I also think the environment that you grow up in plays a lot into that too, right? Like your
Yeah.
family, their influence, who you surround yourself with, like, how you show up in the world on a day-to-day basis, or how you grew up as a kid can all influence all that too. So again, it's really hard to know exactly, but
Yeah, but
because I think people go through different stages of wanting to move forward or not,
Yeah.
like, and being okay with being a little bit more stagnant right now. I mean, I've been trying hard to just shift my perspective on life being a series of chapters.
Yeah.
You know, for a long time, I think when I was younger, I was just like, it's just one big thing and it's all going to be, you know, positive. I'm just going to keep, you know, crushing, going from one thing to the next, that like, and everything's just going to build on itself. And what a wake up call when, you know, shit hits the fan and you sort of fall off a cliff, and then you spend I feel like I'm 5 years out from this brain injury, where it wasn't just the brain injury, it was a lot of other things. It was lost my job, lost my relationship, lost, you know, place I was living, and all these things all happened at once. And it was COVID. And it's been 5 years, and I still feel like I'm recovering from that. And like physically I'm recovered. I would say mentally and emotionally I'm getting there, but it's definitely it's a journey, and I've had to like look at even just those 5 years have been segmented into some chapters for me. And I think if you can look at life that way, it helps you feel like if something is stagnant or it's not working right now, that you know that it's going to change, right? Like that this is a chapter, and I have the ability to like help change it, or I can make decisions, or I can do something to like help close that page, right, and move on to the next thing. But if you just feel like sometimes when things aren't going well, if you don't see an end in sight, it just can sort of start feeling hopeless, right? So,
To bring in a bikepacking metaphor,
I was gonna say this has a lot to do with like a bikepacking race. I was just thinking about that. Like,
how many times have I felt
awful.
that? Yeah, and you like it. You think it's gonna never end in that moment,
right?
But it always has an end. You just have to keep like, just managing that thought process. In that situation. That's at least when people crack, they can't manage the gravity of that situation, right? Or the temporary pain of that, physically and mentally, or whatever, or the overwhelmingness of it, or whatever it is.
Yeah, I just made a social post about this, sort of like wrapping up my little recent endurance effort at the Dawn to Dusk race.
Yes, I wanted to ask you about this in detail.
Well, yeah, so I mean, the race photos just came out yesterday, so I was like, I'm gonna like make a little social post about it, and I like tying sort of like life things back, like athletic endeavors or whatever the heck I'm doing, back to some kind of like life learning. That's just part of the like focus on coaching, or just trying to like, everything's got a purpose for you to learn something out of, right? So yeah, it was like
well, in sports parallel with so many life lessons,
they do,
right? All kinds of sports.
I love sports so much.
They're so important.
Yeah, and so it just sort of had, it basically was just like, you know, the ability to like put yourself in a situation where you're experiencing pain and suffering, and you're doing this on purpose. And a lot of times in real life, you don't have that option. Like shit happens and you're not like choosing that. But like, why would I go out and want to do this long effort knowing I'm going to feel awful? You know, I know I'm going to feel awful. It's like inevitable that I will experience some pain and suffering, but I'm choosing to go do this anyway. But like those experiences help us when the like hard life stuff comes, right? But it was sort of like, you know, if you can keep looking up, looking ahead, if you can keep fueling yourself, right, with food and water. This is like during a bike pack race, or during a long effort. If you can, you know, keep holding on to hope that it's like it's gonna end, or you're gonna start feeling better at some point, right? Those are like some keys, like during a race, that you can, if you can keep those in your mind and just keep having that positive mental mindset, that it's not going to all feel awful, right? Like it's going to ebb and flow. And a lot of it has to do with the keep fueling yourself.
For sure.
I mean, I think you can get in the hole and then you feel awful, and then that's when the wheels start falling off, right?
Yeah.
So in my post, in this race, I did 7 laps. It was like 100, I think that was 114 miles. And I felt pretty good. Laps 1, 2, 3. which sort of parallels the amount of cross-country riding I've been doing right now. So I wasn't surprised to like feel okay the first few laps, and you usually do, right?
Yeah.
By the time I got to lap 4,
Wait, how many miles? Sorry, how many miles were each lap?
16.
Okay.
So
Miles. So you're like
yeah,
60 miles in?
yeah,
64?
yeah, something. Yeah, because I did 7 laps, something like that. I was like 50 something miles or whatever.
4 laps is 64 miles.
Yeah. I started not feeling that great. Like I remember the 4th lap and I'm like, oh my God, are people on e-bikes passing me right now? The course was really interesting. It was like a 3-ish% grade, 8-mile climb, 2 miles of sort of up and down that felt more like down after climbing, just like no break in the climbing for 8 miles, which is not my forte per se, but, and then 6 miles of sort of like cruiser downhill. No rocks on the entire course. It was like wild, really sort of
Nice.
I mean, it was interesting. Not, just not very like interesting terrain, just more like slogging it out. The down was super fun. It was like you could just sort of fast. Yeah. But anyway, yeah, I felt like people were passing me on e-bikes.
Yeah. But there were no e-bikes on the course,
no
right?
e-bikes on the course, but that's sort of like you're just going so slow. Like I just wanted like a little placard on my back that just said solo rider, so that like people would be nice to me, because I felt like I was having to get out of the way a lot.
Yeah. So you hit the wall at 60
so
miles.
I'd say I moderately
65.
hit the wall. Like I think I was doing like 120 something laps in the 120s, and then I think it bumped up to 130s. I think my 6th lap was 140 something. And then
what kind of stuff were you doing for fuel?
I was, well, let's see. I thought I had a good plan. I had Tailwind and a bunch of bottles. I didn't have a support crew, so I was having to sort of ride outside the course, get to this little box of stuff I had, and then sort of clean my own chain, which was sort of a cluster, without a stand, just like trying to do that while I was pouring Coke all over myself, basically. But I was trying to drink like Tailwind. I was trying to do 300 calories an hour, which for a lap was about 450. So I was trying to drink 300 calories a lap and eat 150 calories a lap, which I did pretty good for the first few laps. And then I sort of fell off that, and I think it sort of caught up with me.
Yeah.
And I didn't stop. I was like, I don't want to go to the pit stop spot because it just takes a while. So I think I like rode through that thing and did 2 laps, and then I stopped on the 3rd lap and got some more stuff. And then I think I rode through again on the 4th lap, which probably did not serve me. And yeah, it was interesting. But I had a bunch of like Snickers bars, and I had little flasks of maple syrup. We talked about maple syrup on the last podcast. I love it.
Did it work out okay?
That stuff worked out pretty good. I had a bunch of NARD gummy clusters.
This is a good time. This is your gift from me for doing the podcast.
Really?
Yeah,
a
from
whole
Embark.
thing of maple
yeah,
syrup?
you got like 3
yeah.
different kinds.
Oh my gosh! Thanks,
it's your
Bill.
little goodie bag.
Not
It's
for
got
you,
some
Brady.
squirrels in there too, and
Oh, that's awesome.
We're gonna.
I'm gonna eat that.
Yeah, they have elderberry flavor in there, which is really good, and then there's a coffee which has caffeine. It has green tea caffeine in it.
Sweet.
So, and if you don't like it during endurance, just pancake style.
Oh no, I will just.
But
This
yeah,
is
it's
perfect.
good. So
I'm a
shout out
big
to Embark.
Yeah, thanks Embark.
They're a sponsor.
I will save this for 24 hours in the old pub.
Yes.
8 weeks away.
Yes.
That the strategy worked okay. The maple syrup went down easy. I had NARD gummy clusters in a feed bag. I was like, these things are great. I love them. They're like.
What bike did you ride? Your Pivot.
I rode my Pivot Mach 4 SL.
Okay.
Yeah, which is sort of.
Could you have done it on a hardtail? I mean, it sounds like.
Yeah, and I used to race on my hardtail Pivotless, but I have since I got that other bike. I've just been using that one. It's sort of nice to have some suspension in the back, and it has a remote lockout, which is pretty nice.
Oh,
but,
yeah. Yeah, you got a soft spot for the pivots, huh?
You
got a Pivot gravel bike, didn't you?
I did. I got the new Vault.
Yeah.
I have Transition Sentinel. That's my only non-pivot right now. That's my big park bike. And,
Okay, yeah. The
Um,
Highline bike?
Oh,
the Highline Descent
did
bike.
you see that?
Yeah,
video?
yeah. I want to talk about that too.
Well, let me tell you. Well, let me finish up
Yeah,
on the
sorry.
fueling though. That's okay. Lots to talk about. But anyway, I thought I was gonna be psyched on NARD gummy clusters,
Yeah.
and I just like I don't know what it is when you start racing and you're just like your heart rate goes up and all of a sudden your stomach is just like sort of weird, you know?
Yeah. Like the last 4 things I've done, it's
yeah.
done that. I thought it was just peanuts specifically. I was having peanut issues.
Oh.
Yeah,
no.
because I kept eating like peanut butter, like things that
Oh,
had peanut butter in them,
interesting.
stupidly. Anyway,
Well,
what are NARD gummy clusters?
They're really good. They're like they're like gummy food, which I've like often brought like Swedish fish or gummy root beer bottles and like been able to get lots of sugar in on bike packing races. But I don't know, bike packing races, like sometimes you stop and like hang out and take a break or something. And so I usually am better at eating those kinds of things when like you aren't stopping for 10 straight hours. I don't know. I thought I was going to be able to eat these things because it's the first time I brought them on a race. And I was like, I couldn't, it was like too sweet. It was like too much to try to chew them all and get them down. And I think you had to eat 16 of them to get like 100 calories. And
Now, is this like NARD brand? Like the NARD candies?
yeah, so
I
they're
see.
like gummies with nerds on the outside,
Okay.
like little circle. So it's like they're covered in nerds. So
Yeah.
it's like good sugar, but I think I would do them on a bike pack race. I don't think I would do them again. I think I realized in this race, like when I'm doing like Old Pueblo or this kind of thing where you're just like going, you don't ever sit down or stop or take a break for like 10 minutes or anything, that I need things that are not chewing.
It's
Like
so different.
Like the maple syrup, like hammer flask, just like crushed it, don't have to like chew. Like I was like, oh, I'm going to hammer all these giant Snickers bars. And I was like, just trying to like choke the half a
Yeah.
Snickers bar down. And was just like, I can't do it.
Yeah.
And so then like when I was stopping at my little box, I was eating bananas because those are sort of easier to get down. I was trying to eat a banana a lap and I don't know. It was tricky. Applesauce packets. Those don't have a lot of calories, but I really like those. They're a little bit more like real food. Yeah. Anyway.
Is this the longest single day race you've done? Like a fast pace,
Well, I've
non-bike packing sort of thing?
I've done 24 hours in the Old Pueblo
Okay.
6 times.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So
yeah, I
that's
forgot.
and I've done 6 hours in Frog Hollow and the 24-hour Frog Hollow on a 4-person team. So those are the other like ones that are not bike packing that are like long.
So you've done multiple solo 24 hours.
Yeah, 4. I did 4. I've done 4 solos and 2 duos.
And was the food situation different there? Like, were you okay on those
Well,
compared to this? Like a 10-hour?
yeah.
Was it the speed maybe?
I don't know if I was going that much faster. It's similar with the 24 hours, yeah. And I think I've gotten so sick of like goo shots and Cliff Blocks, and that was like all I would eat, and I just can't. It's almost like I can't do it anymore. Like I couldn't eat a Cliff Bar if you like paid me, like a regular like old Cliff Bar, because I've eaten so many of those when I was a kid.
Yeah.
That I'm just like I can't even look at those things. Like
Yeah.
the original type of Cliff Bar.
Yeah.
They have some new styles that I like, but I wouldn't eat them in a bike race. They're too like pasty.
Yeah.
But yeah, like
It's
20.
like your first alcohol you ever got sick on.
Like Zima.
What was it? Was that yours? What was the first? We're going to take a tangent here. what
The first thing I ever
was
drank.
that made you sick?
Oh, that made me sick.
Yeah.
Oof.
Or maybe the first thing you ever drank. I'll take that one too.
Well, I'll tell you what. One time, one of the craziest things in college, one night I was out and I was dipping, which was gross.
Yeah.
It's but I got really sick while I was dipping, while I was drinking. And if someone opens a tin of dip near me now, like even if it's 10, 15 yards away and I catch a small whiff of it, I get so nauseous.
Ugh.
It is disgusting.
Yeah.
Like I can't even look at that stuff. It's gross. I don't know what it was. And it was only one time. But I'm so glad that happened to me.
You only dipped once?
No,
one time,
I had dipped a few times. I had dipped more, but
but you only got sick.
not a lot. But
Yeah.
yeah, I got sick once and it was like over. Like
Yeah.
so wild. I don't think that's happened with anything else in my life, but I'm very grateful it did.
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I dipped one time. Smoked for a lot of years, but
Ooh, yeah, never smoked a single cigarette.
Really?
But yeah.
yeah, I
I
went
don't
pretty
know.
hard. Marlboro Reds
Ooh.
from Mexico.
Oh, interesting.
You could buy them for like cartons for like half price
Nice.
in
So
Mexico.
you would go down to Mexico, buy a bunch of cigarettes. All these
And
things
they
I
had,
don't know
like,
about you, Dylan.
extra rat poison in them. You
Oh,
know what I mean?
gross.
They were like,
Yeah.
they tasted different, so there was definitely something. Like the manufacturing was horrible.
Yeah.
Like
Ugh,
I'm like
so bad.
atoning for, like trying to.
You're still building the lungs back.
Yeah, but I have exceptional smell now still. It didn't kill my ability to smell things.
Nice.
I have like,
Do people lose sense of smell to smoking?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I think that's part of why they say it suppresses your appetite.
Oh, because you can't smell food.
You can't taste and smell.
Yeah. Sort
And
of like COVID.
exactly.
Perfect.
And yeah, and also it does something to your metabolism too. But yeah, they were those Mexico Marlboro Reds. Those were legit. So.
Wow.
But anyway, yeah, done
Yeah.
with that
All
part of
right.
my life.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Anyway.
back to eating
Oh,
junk
so
food.
so I was gonna say the thing that saved me. So my last lap 7 in this race,
Yeah.
I felt amazing, and I think, I mean, it was anytime you're like getting towards the end, you're like, I don't have to do this friggin' thing again. So I knew there was part of that was the pick me up of like, I'm going out for the 7th lap. I didn't even have to. I was in 5th. I kept coming back. I kept coming through the race tent, and I wasn't looking at the placings or anything, but the guy kept telling me like I'd come through, and he'd be like, "Oh, you're in 5th place," and then the next lap he's like, "You got a solid hold on 5th place," and I'm like, "Ah, shit,"
Yeah.
And then I come through at the 6th lap, and he's like, "Still in 5th place," and I'm like, I was like, What do you guys do for podium spots? He's like, top 3, and I'm like, because at Au Pueblo they do 5.
Oh, okay.
And I was like, crap, I was like, well, I really my goal had been to do 7 laps. Like the last, I think, few years, if you look back at the race scores, like 7 was on the podium, and it was either the winning number, people all had 7s. This year, the top 2 women had 9, the 3rd place had 8. So I was like nowhere close. But I was like, you know what? I'm going to go out for the 7th lap because this is what I want to do, and I don't have to do this. I could just stop right now, but this is like the character building part of this whole thing of just going and sucking it up. Plus, it was the sunset lap where it gets dark, and that's actually like riding to the dusk part of the race. So
Right.
Anyway, it was beautiful sunset. I had drank 1.5 liters of Coke out of my Camelback on lap 6, and lap 7, I felt good.
That was the
I
magic?
shaved like 10 minutes off my time.
Yeah. It woke you back up.
Yeah, it was amazing. I love
Yeah.
Coke.
Totally.
It's so good.
I can't. The last few things where I got stomach issues, I just switched to drinking soda.
It's so bizarre.
Yeah.
I had put Coke in bottles, like in my like liter bottles the day before. So some of it was flat. Like I think the first 1.5 liters I drank was flat, and then I filled it back up with like fresh cans on lap 7. So I was drinking it on the 7th lap too. So I
Yeah.
bet I drank over 2 liters of Coke in the
Yeah.
last like 2 hours of the race. And so I was like, it's amazing you could drink this much soda and it actually makes you feel better and not like your gut feeling worse. And I don't understand why.
Yeah, I think some of
magic.
the lore of soda bikepacking races,
Yeah.
Myron or Marone Golfman finished the CTR in 2 years ago,
Yeah.
and basically only drank Coke the whole time.
The whole race.
Yeah,
Oof.
for like
Wow.
whatever 4 days or whatever long it took him, 5 days.
Wow. That's
He was
impressive.
when I saw him on AZT 300 a couple years ago when he was doing the 800. He had like holsters full of
Coke.
Coke everywhere.
Were they like cans or
They
bottles?
were bottles.
Or?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Because you got to watch for the exploding Cokes.
Yeah.
You kind of got to be a little strategic on that. So
I dropped a can of Coke. I think I told you this the last time on the AZT 300 race. It was like I was pushing my bike up Bayota Trail, like the top of Milagrosa, basically to get to the road, to
Yeah.
the highway.
Yeah.
And I was like totally bonking. And I was like, oh my God, I remembered I had this can of Coke.
Yeah.
And I pull it out and I'm like, this is going to be awesome. And I fumbled it and it dropped on my bike. And like, yeah. And it was like just sticky bike. And like the Coke can had sort of like curled in this way that there was like one slurp, and I was like, and I was,
A little bit of dirt in it.
and I was just like, I can't believe I just did that.
That's so
It was
funny.
so disheartening. Like while you're bonking, it was like gold.
I just carried a big bottle on Escape LA and just kept refilling it in the when I would stop.
Oh, at like the little.
Yeah, at fountain drinks. Yeah.
Was it like a Coke bottle, or were you just carrying like a liter
Yeah.
Nalgene bottle or something?
No, I was just like I bought a plastic
Like
Coke bottle.
Like a 2 liter?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
nice.
chugged it and then would just refill that.
That's
when I
hilarious.
would go to, and then I had a couple of them by the end of it.
Yeah.
And so I carry them. I have like the kangaroo pockets in my vest.
Oh, okay.
And I carry them back there so that they don't get too shaken up and explode in my bike.
Okay.
Because I'm super paranoid about putting them in the frame bag.
Oh, yeah, just in
So-
case you crash.
Or just
Or just they'll shake around.
yeah, the shaking. It'll pop it has potential to explode in there.
That would be exciting.
I've heard that happen. So
Yeah.
and I've been paranoid since. So I
Yeah.
keep those handy. But yeah,
Interesting.
the Coke, yeah, it's interesting. Like Coke is whatever the worst thing you can possibly drink in normal life.
Right.
But it's the best thing you can probably. It seems to just be like everybody. A lot of people let me put it this way. Not very many people I talk to have an opposite story of your story.
Right? Yeah.
They're usually like, they're never like, oh, that was horrible, it gave me heartburn. It always is just like, that's exactly what my body needed.
Right.
And I felt great for the
Yeah.
following 2 hours.
Well, and I guess I've learned that. Like I've sort of, throughout all these little races and things, I've learned like I know I'm going to want to drink Coke like at some point on this race, right? I know I'll eat bananas. I know I'll drink maple syrup, I know I need to get a bunch of fuel from liquid calories because I'm not going to want to eat. And then there are certain times where like I can actually eat and chew things, but then there are other races where I can't. So like when I buy all my food for 24 hop, it's like I have so much stuff because it's just hard to know exactly what your stomach's going to be doing. Like I want to be able to eat like Cheez-Its and like salty snacks and bars or like, I'm always impressed by people who are like, yeah, I like ate a burrito and like had a real dinner. And I'm like, oh, I cannot do that.
Yeah.
Like I remember the first Pinions and Pines at the start, Alexandra Houchin, she unzipped her like frame bag and it was just like a Tetris of like Annie's burritos, like filled up in a big triangle, like a little brick wall. And I remember being like, holy shit,
Yeah.
like you can eat those?
Yeah, her stomach is made of granite,
I
though,
know.
by the way.
Oh, I know. But it was wild. I was like mind blown. I'm carrying that was my first bike pack race. I'm sure I was carrying like 15 packets of like Cliff Blocks,
Yeah.
like so gross.
That's like,
I don't do that anymore.
it's like becoming the number one core tenet of endurance anything is ability to digest food.
Yeah.
If you can do that, if you have a stomach of steel.
Yeah. Like Joey Chestnut. You know who that is?
Nah.
He's
Oh,
like
the
one of the hot
dog guy?
dog eating
Yeah.
champions.
Yeah, and he's, I think, jacked, too. He's pretty shredded, isn't he?
I can't remember.
Or is it, I think there's a Asian
It's that guy and there's the other guy. I can't remember his name.
Yeah, there's like-
they like battle it.
Oh,
Oh,
and then they-
Kobayashi.
Yeah.
So, I can't remember his first name.
They just drink, they just
Yeah.
like are
They
putting
dip
buns
it in like
water.
lemonade
Oh,
and then just shove it. It's so-
lemonade.
I think it's lemonade.
Whoa.
Or it's or water maybe, but it's something that makes it soggy, which
Yeah.
is disgusting.
The buns, just to get the buns in. Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. It's so funny. Like
pretty
the race ended. I couldn't, eat anything solid. The race ends and like within like 10 minutes I'm eating a pizza. And it's like there's this weird like brain downshift that happens where your brain realizes I'm done. And then your stomach is like, I'm open for business.
Right.
For anything now.
Right.
It's so weird. It's
Right.
like there's some weird switch. And maybe that's learned over time with the endurance racing, or I don't know if that's just I don't know. But I was pretty stoked to eat a pizza afterward.
Yeah. For
Crawl
sure.
into my truck and go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyway.
Cool. So, that's a Zia rides?
Yeah.
That puts
that was
that
my
on?
first Zia Rides event. Yeah, it was
Okay.
good. They did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are they from New Mexico?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. It's the same group that does the Enchanted Forest.
Yep. And they're doing a new one here in Tucson in January called the Tucson Tenor,
Okay.
which I can't do because I have a coaching commitment that day. But And then they just took over the Frog Hollow races up in Utah from I can't remember who was putting those on, but so they're like growing, which is cool, and they do a good job. Nice folks, like well-run event, organized, good communication.
Yeah, I think they might have been bought up by a different group like a year or two ago.
Okay.
And then it must have started this like expansion.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because like the bike industry is in such a weird place right now.
Yeah.
With the recent like the Pros Closet closed.
Yeah.
And then got bought out and reopened.
Oh, it did? It got reopened? Oh, okay, that's good to know.
Yeah.
GT I just saw is like downside, laying off a bunch of people.
Really?
Rocky Mountains like basically restructuring to like to avoid bankruptcy, which I just read in the last week. So it's just like, hits keep coming.
Yeah, and there's a local bike shop in Flag that called Cosmic Cycles that's going under.
I read that.
Yeah,
after recently.
It's been around since I've been in Flagstaff, it's been around forever. And that, specifically his post, the owner he mentioned something about like competing directly with the bike industry.
I read that.
Which I thought was, I reached out to him to see if he was interested in talking more about that. But it's very interesting because the bike industry is changing. They're going more to this direct-to-consumer model.
Yeah.
There were these like pioneers who started the direct-to-consumer model, like YT and Canyon, and these groups that like they just like many other industries, they thought, well, let's try this other model and not have brick and mortar. But now you have the other brands going direct-to-consumer also, and so they're competing directly with bike shops.
Yeah.
I've always thought bike shops are like car dealerships, like they a lot of their revenue is service. They do a lot of the sales isn't, although that's like what they're known for.
No, it's selling bikes is where I think they make their money.
Really? For bike shops?
I think so.
They have like decent margins on those.
I think there used to be. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
I don't know how. I think right now with the big bike companies discounting their bikes like 40%, I think that doesn't help the bike shops. I think that's where some of the bike shop stress has been.
I see.
That's, from talking to some people. I'm not the bike shop expert over here by any means, but that's how I have understood some of the issues because bike sales are like the way to make money. Like thousands of dollars on a bike if you sell one bike versus like the labor of doing repairs and like the parts and stuff like that. You just don't. It takes forever to equal the revenue of selling one bike. I think. Yeah.
So like the ROI on the sale is way better.
Yes.
Than like for the invested time and everything.
That's
too.
how I understand it. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I wouldn't think that.
I called someone yesterday in town here for a bike fit, and it was great. They were like, it was great that they were like, hey, we're not doing any fits right now because we have been selling lots of bikes recently, and I think they're a smaller shop, and we need to prioritize that. And it's also the holidays, but like after the holidays, I'm not sure if we're going to be doing fits or not. And I was like, oh, and one of the guys that worked there has fitted my bikes before, so that's why I called them. But I was like on the phone with him. I'm like, that's so great to hear that you're selling bikes. Like that seems like a rarity. He's like, he just was so amped talking about it. And I was like, well, that maybe tides are turning. I don't really know. Maybe it's just because it's the holidays and the new year. But I was just excited to hear like a bike shop being like happy and excited about the fact that they have lots of business, and I was like, well, I'm just going to call another shop that probably can do this fit sooner than I want to wait. But
right.
But anyway, that was cool because I know it's going to be interesting to see what happens if all these like tariffs take place with the new administration, because that could really flip things in the bike industry again with parts and costs and things like that. So
totally. I was reading the other day that Fox Suspension, they also own Raceface.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I didn't either, and I went down a bit of a hole on this. They also own it's the shoe company, Ride Concepts.
Oh, okay. I just bought a pair of their shoes.
Yeah.
First time.
And then I went down the list of all of the acquisitions that Fox has done since like 2014.
Oh yeah.
And it's really shocking. They've more or less like hedged against a bad economy over the years. So they also own, recently they acquired, so Raceface owns Easton.
Okay.
So Easton
interesting.
makes handlebars, baseball bats.
Yeah, I was gonna say baseball bats is what I originally knew Easton for.
But Easton also started making handlebars
Right.
and carbon components.
Yep.
Because they were already in the circular
Metal.
carbon business.
Right. Yeah. Circular
Right.
carbon.
But they also just bought the company that has the contract with the MLB to make the wooden bats.
Oh, interesting. Easton.
Yeah. I don't know if it's Easton.
Or
I think it
Fox.
might be. So Fox
Yeah.
bought the other company. So
Oh,
they're
wow.
like diversifying
I was
their
gonna
business
say
a
that's the
little
way
bit.
to do it these days. Diversify the portfolio, right?
And Fox started as vehicle suspension,
Okay. Yeah.
like for like Baja
Right.
and like motor sports
Yeah.
suspension, and then they moved into the bike industry as a side project,
Yeah.
basically. But very interesting, like that they've like diversified and hedged against,
Yeah.
and that's probably why they made it through,
Oh yeah.
this without having to do big things. Is they're in
Yeah.
all these places, right?
Yeah. No, that's smart. That's the way to do it if you have the capital to do it, right? Or you take the risk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm just like that's I'm it's fascinating. I'm like a Fox fanboy for sure for suspension. Like,
All my stuff is Fox too.
It's
I'm like
just-
Fox and Shimano. I don't have any SRAM stuff. Or
yeah,
anything.
okay,
Yeah.
we're on the same page there.
Yeah.
I just
Wow.
can't. I've tried it. I've tried the other stuff, and I
Yeah.
just I always go back to like
Yeah.
Shimano is like tried and true.
Yeah.
Like they really do a lot of homework. I have a Toyota
Me too.
and and
yeah.
and
My-
Shimano bike components,
Yeah.
and it's like there's just something there on the reliability angle,
Yeah.
Although I think I just read that Toyota might have just recently dropped below Subaru
Oh, interesting.
on the national reliability scale or whatever, but Subaru's Japanese also.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm on about 18 years of Tacomas now.
Tacomas, yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm not sure I'll switch that anytime soon. Well, my recent one's only 3 years old, so
Yeah.
it's probably going to be with me for another decade or so. We'll
Yeah.
see. So
Shoot, ours is 2016 and we only have like 45,000
oh
miles.
wow.
Because
Really?
we don't drive a
Wow,
lot. We have three vehicles.
60 on
So-
mine, and it's only 3 years
Okay,
old. I'm
yeah.
glad I drive a lot. I move
Yeah.
every freaking 6 months these days.
Yeah,
so
I mean, you're always driving back and forth.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Um,
Anyway, that's a whole
I
other
think you
story.
know.
I need my AI life coach for that one.
That's what that is what's going to happen. Like the next generation is going to have this like personal assistant who knows them, like intimately knows them from
Yeah.
all of their social media stuff and has
Yeah.
access to all of their Outlook calendars. Or well, I mean, people won't be using Outlook calendars or whatever. I don't
I
think
hope
they will.
not.
Like,
Outlook's awful.
but they'll be completely embedded in. Like they'll understand a person completely from the time they're born
Oh, God.
to the time
That
they're
sounds
18.
awful.
They're going to have this personal assistant who can
Yeah.
be a someone to lean on, if they're having questions and if you think about ChatGPT, like intimately knowing you and already
Yeah.
predicting what you're going to say or what you're thinking,
Yeah.
right? And going through different it's pretty
Do you
crazy.
remember that movie called Her? That was like a bunch of years ago.
I never watched it. Joaquin Phoenix though, right? Didn't
yeah.
he fall in love with an AI?
Yeah, and it was years ago, and I remember I watched it and was like, no friggin' way. And now I'm like, oh God.
There's people having full relationships
I
with AI chatbots.
I know.
There's like Instagram influencers that are completely false, that aren't even real people.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Ew.
What
It makes me nervous.
what's your relationship with social media?
Oof,
Yeah.
that's a tough one. I'm on it for sure. Yeah, social media is so interesting. Like part of me just wants to get rid of it and not be on it at all because I know it's at times unhealthy, just in terms of time spent or like what am I doing right now, and then there's a part of me that's like I feel connection this way, right? And I feel like I understand what's going on in some people's lives that I don't often have time to see, or they live somewhere else. And I have a bunch of friends that aren't on social media at all, and I'm often like, I don't know what the heck's going on in their world. We talked about like how many people can you keep up with for certain amounts of time. And I don't know, there's like an ease to social media of like, hey, I know that person's like doing this, or they like accomplished a big goal and that's pretty cool. Or so I do like it for that. As someone who has switched their career in the last few years, basically I feel like I have 5 or 6 jobs right now, but as someone who's trying to like define themselves as a coach in various ways, like a mountain bike coach, a life coach, I do some strength coaching still and write programs for people. It feels like a necessity in terms of using it as a way to get the word out in terms of a business that you're running. And so I've had that debate of like, oh, should I get off this stuff and see how that feels? But then I'm like, I don't know if I could do that with trying to get some like newer businesses up and running. So that feels it feels to me like right now, like social media is part of my life. And then how do I create boundaries or have a healthy relationship with it? That's the like tricky part on a day-to-day basis of like, how long have I stared at like Instagram, and just scrolled through it mindlessly?
Yeah.
Or what am I like, what content am I putting out there into the world, right? And is this useful, or what's the point of this, right? And why? Like, why am I choosing to post this thing or write this thing? And trying to like ask myself some questions around that. So, yeah.
It's kind of like having to, you were saying earlier, you had to cold call and ask for money.
Yeah.
It's like a required part of the job.
Being an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of is.
And
it is.
It's maybe not what you want to do or healthy or whatever.
Yeah. It's funny, like last summer, and maybe it was because I was so busy, like I tried to balance like starting this business, mountain bike guiding coaching company with how I was working for a couple other mountain bike companies and like doing these sort of like 2-day clinics and things like that. And then I was landscaping to make actual money.
Yeah.
And so I was so busy. I was like basically like, because I had some flexibility with the landscaping work, I was like any day didn't have any bike coaching going on. I was like, I should work and make money, right? And so I like barely had any downtime. I wasn't riding my bike at all. Like I think I went on like 6 bike rides that were like for myself that were pedaling all summer. When I was riding my bike, I was often like riding at a bike park downhill, and I had some bigger goals towards like I got a level 2 coaching certification. Like I passed this course and it was in August. So I spent a lot of time trying to like get better at jumps and drops and practicing all this technique stuff. So I was set up well for that course. So I didn't prioritize like long cross country rides, but anyway, it was hard because I was like so busy last summer that I didn't do a lot of social media posting for my own business. I think I would like get home from the day, and whether it was landscaping or like landscaping and doing a bike lesson or something, and I would just be like totally fried. Mm-hmm. And like my brain had no capacity to like make some like elaborate post about this thing for the business, or like I couldn't really think through beyond like a week of my life. Mm-hmm. So that was challenging. You were asking about like, what would you do differently with marketing? And it's like, it's hard to do your own social media sometimes for your own business. It's funny because right now I'm helping Homegrown Mountain Bike Tours, my friend Tara's business down here. And I'm like helping her with social media. And maybe it's because I have a lot more time on my hands right now because I don't have as many jobs. That it's like been fun and interesting to like help another business do their social media.
Sure.
I don't know. It's funny. It's like, I don't know if it's my brain capacity or if it's not my own business. So it's like somehow the words flow slightly easier.
Oh, yeah.
It's so, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's interesting. But,
right.
But it is.
Or you're not self-critical about it. Or critical
well,
about
yeah,
it,
we're talking about that too. Like when it's your own thing, it feels like it needs to be perfect. So if it's not, you don't want to even post it.
Yeah.
And then if it's someone else's, you're like, yeah. It seems good enough.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not good at that stuff either for myself. I mean, but I have figured out how to make the process the least stressful as possible.
Yeah.
And that's by scheduling everything.
Oh, nice.
So like I'm a big believer in the back to social media it's a diet. It's a social media diet, just like a food diet.
Yeah.
Right? And so like it can be like poison food or it can be like healthy food.
Processed or
Yeah, it can be like processed horrible poison food for you,
Yeah.
you know, that like is toxic to you, or it can be really good, and you have to actively control what's being fed to you, and you have to understand yourself enough to know what's healthy and not healthy for you, right? And not let it like co-opt you and remember always that these are predatory companies that are all fighting for your attention so they can sell ads to you.
Right. Yeah.
Right? Which is crazy, but for me it's like, so for the endurance studio it's just I schedule everything. I do it all in 1 hour, and I get all the posts ready for the week, and I schedule them all out, and then I don't think about it for a week.
Oh, that's cool.
I have like a whole system with like, I release to members. Thank you for being a long-time member.
I have a backstory for that
Okay.
too.
Please do tell.
But I don't want to interrupt your social
you're
media
good.
thing. Well, I was going to say, I think I reached out to you last summer, and it was it was sometime last summer. I got a random text one day from someone that had listened to the last podcast, and I don't remember the guy's name, but he reached out randomly and was just like, "Hey," I think it was Father's Day or something, but he was like, I listened to the podcast, and you talked a lot about depression, and because I was talking about my brain injury and sort of that whole cluster part of what happened, and some pretty deep, scary stuff. And he's like, I just stumbled upon that, and it like gave me a bunch of hope. And he was like, that was like the best Father's Day present or something I could have gotten. And I was like, whoa. And he like wanted to send me money. He was like,
really?
He's like, he had found my phone number off my like life coaching website, and he had gotten in touch, and he basically gave, we had a back and forth for a while. And then he's like, can I like send you, like it was so impactful. And so when he sent me that, I used some of that money to sign up for your podcast, because I wanted to send it back to you and support you, because you're like seeking out conversations, whether they're about biking or endurance stuff or not, right? Like it's life stuff. That's why I think biking and endurance stuff is so great, because it's so transferable back to life. But you're having these conversations with people and putting them out into the world, and people are listening to them, and they're creating an impact. Yeah. And so, So anyway, that's why I signed up to be a member, because I wanted to put that money back into the podcast, and it was just really impactful to like have that person reach out, and for me, sharing my story about the challenge of overcoming that brain injury and sort of my life imploding, and pretty severe depression and things like that, has been one, healing, and two, like hopefully like my journey can help someone else,
When I get that kind of feedback, it's like, that's it. That's the one. That's all I need,
Yeah.
And I'll keep going, right? Because I do go through like ups and downs with this thing.
I'm sure.
And
it's a lot of energy.
It is. And it's a lot of money, and it's a lot of like, energy, coupling it with like bike packing and the energy it takes to like bike pack.
Yeah.
To like also bring a podcast studio, and like, but then like the gratification is like more than anything. Like it's so gratifying. Like it's become almost a part where I've thought about, if I stopped doing this, like I would have a huge hole.
Yeah.
So I just need to like learn how to take breaks.
Yeah.
And then I get re-inspired.
Yeah.
To have conversations with people. But the mission's kind of changed over time, and kind of now I'm in this. I kind of decide like, how am I going to structure this thing? Is it going to be like, am I going to have sponsors that pay me, or that I could ask them for money to support the podcast, or is it going to be like a paywall as far as membership, and like how am I going to organize this whole thing? And I really like believe that advertising compromises you. it opens up the door to be censored and compromised in what you're saying. So like, I can't have a platform. I feel like there's a missing platform for free speech in bikepacking and in endurance sports. Specifically in bikepacking, I don't think people. I think bikepacking.com vanillaizes. That's not a word. It's a new word. Vanillaizes can make everything vanilla. Like, they won't do a bad review of something. They won't like. They definitely are on the woke side of things. There's no place where people can just like talk about things and not worry about getting canceled.
Oh, right.
You know?
Sure.
And
yeah.
like, I felt like an obligation to create that.
Yeah, and it's so hard to do that within the constraints of like a certain word count, you know, effectively. Whereas like like you can write a story, right? Bikepacking.com is like not print, but it's website articles, right? And there's words. And like, yeah, you can tell a story through words, but I think conversations and like longer format human interactions is really different for certain things like that, certain topics, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's like gear reviews and things, and that's really different from like a discussion about, you know, transgender sports or something like that, right?
Yeah.
And in terms of like whatever wokeness or
Yeah.
things like that. So I think it's just a different avenue to have real conversations and be able to sort of listen and talk and share ideas and brainstorm about topics that are maybe less cut and dry, as like, does this harness like work well for my bike handlebars?
Yeah, but that's
you know?
not all bikepacking.com.
I mean, there's stories about races and things like that, but I mean, what are you thinking about with bikepacking.com?
Well, just like, I just feel like they don't want to ever go against the grain. Like, they have too much built into this. They're reliant on. It's a business. It's a big business that people, their livelihoods are built around it. There are people that live off of the income from the sponsorships.
Yeah.
That are partnered with bikepacking.com.
Yeah, or any business, really.
Yeah,
Right.
right. And that's why this is free. This is free of that.
Yeah.
Because this is not my main source of income, nor do I want
Right.
to make it that ever. Right.
Right.
That's the key here. Is I don't want it to build into that.
Yeah, and that'll taint it in some way, right?
For
you.
sure.
It'll be something you have to do instead of something you're choosing to do.
Yeah. Right.
So.
And then it becomes corrupted. I think then the conversations aren't allowed. They don't. For me, at least, I can't be as free with it.
Right, because if you have a sponsor telling you what you can and can't publish or put out there or talk about, then because they don't want to be associated with it, then it's a very different conversation.
Right.
And I think, you know.
Well, and everybody was so afraid of getting canceled or saying things on camera. I've had multiple people, and I won't name any names, but didn't really. They had an opinion, but they didn't particularly want to put it on camera about a certain topic.
Sure.
You know, and like, I don't know. I just think that it's kind of sad that you can't have like real conversations respectfully, or debates even about things.
Yeah, the
And-
world these days, right?
Yeah.
Like if you read any comment section on anything, it's like hard to want to put something out there that might rock the boat in a little bit because of that. I don't know. I just watched the Aaron Rodgers Enigma documentary on Netflix the last couple nights. Aaron Rodgers, very polarizing character. I don't know how much you're into football, but
No, I know.
But yeah, I mean, he's had a lot of things said about him and like the public perception of him in the last bunch of years about, you know, taking time off from training camp to go to Egypt or go to like do an ayahuasca retreat or the vaccines or whatever. Like he's become a polarizing figure, whereas back in the day he wasn't. And I don't know, I thought the documentary was really interesting. It gave me a little bit more empathy towards him. And there's like things that I don't know him at all, right? How can I judge all the things? And like what the media says is always so freaking tainted, right? And so, I don't know. I thought it was interesting. It gave me a different perspective on him. And I wouldn't say I agree with all of his decisions or things. But it was interesting to listen to him talk. I mean, I would say it's probably not unfiltered because it's an edited Netflix documentary, but it was him rather than like some interview that a media source cut up, you know, trying to like create some kind of drama. And it was interesting to him to talk sort of more unfiltered in his own, from his own side of things. And it gave me some more like, oh, wow, that guy, like, all right, yeah, he's got some viewpoints that I really agree with on life and, you know, things he's learned over the years of being in front of the camera for so long. So I don't know.
You put anybody. So I heard him on when he went on Joe Rogan.
Okay. I did not listen to that one.
Yeah. And I'm telling you, anybody, no matter which side you think they're on or what you think about them, when you sit them down for 3 hours and you listen to them and they have an opportunity to fully articulate their point of view, it all makes sense. I've listened to Bernie Sanders and been like, oh, yeah, that guy totally makes sense.
Yeah.
I've listened to J.D. Vance and been like, he is not at all what I thought he was.
Oh, interesting.
I listened to...
these are like longer format interviews.
Yeah. RFK Jr.
Yeah.
Like specifically politicians, but you get into these other high-profile figures.
Yeah.
And you're like, this is, in my opinion, an ideal way of understanding someone's point of view.
Yeah.
This is a new way of doing it, right? With podcasting, with long form.
Yeah.
Just free flowing, unedited episodes. And it's a huge inspiration for this same sort of format, right? But like it humanizes the people. And I think it played a huge role in the election because Trump and Vance did the whole podcast circuit. They did Theo Vaughn, Lex Friedman, Joe Rogan, and Kamala didn't do any of that. She did one, and I think like that really was
interesting.
A bad call. She did like what's called now legacy media, right? Which is your traditional forms of media, your news, your CNN, Fox News, and all this.
Yeah.
And I just thought I think it was a huge, huge, interesting decision. Why?
Yeah.
But I think the thing, Trump is like really good at, that's his sweet spot. He can just go into a rally and just talk for like 3 hours.
Oh, yeah, totally
and just
unscripted.
Like, just like whatever, right? Like so that was like no big deal for him. Yeah, you know. Yeah. So let's change topics. Let's talk about something else that's political, but not as divisive.
Oh, God.
So did you see that the Explore Act just passed?
Yes.
Congress?
Yeah, it's huge.
Yeah.
Yeah, which
huge.
included did I say huge?
You said it.
That's huge. Including the Bolt Act.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The biking on long distance trails.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep.
And it has a bunch of other stuff underneath it, a bunch of other outdoor related. So
thank you, Bikepacking Roots, for all your work.
Yeah.
Fighting for that. And
Absolutely.
other organizations, Outdoor Alliance, so many organizations. But yeah, it's a big deal. Any kind of Outdoor Recreation Act passes in the government, it feels like a big win these days.
Yeah.
Right? The Wilderness Fixed Anchor Ban, which is a rock climbing related one, but also that I've been sort of keeping my eye on, also got sort of like the Park Service came out and just said that we're not going to try to do that. They were going to try to limit fixed anchors, like bolted anchors in wilderness, which would have like really upended the rock climbing and canyoneering outdoor sectors. So.
And doing that because of the access and damage that it causes? Or
what? Just impact on environment. Like people drill into rocks to put fixed anchors in to keep people safe, really. But so if you no longer can do that, people are replacing anchors that are already still there, and then they get old, and it just like I get the like premise of it, but it limits a lot of things and creates a lot of safety issues down the line and limits a lot of opportunities for people to go out and explore places. So anyway, that was another thing that just happened. Like this past week, I was like, wow, a couple good things happened in the outdoor world that I wasn't sure would happen.
So now on the Explore Act, it still has to be signed by the president.
Yeah.
Is that?
I think it will be.
Like by Biden?
I think it's Biden, yeah.
That'll be done before he leaves
hopefully.
office, before January.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah.
Yeah. See what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm
I
pretty
mean,
sure.
Everybody.
Usually when it passes both sides of Congress, it's like
Everybody's like, oh, it's almost a done deal.
Yeah.
That's what the feeling.
Yeah, and it feels like outdoor. I mean, I would assume that Biden would support outdoor recreation stuff, but I don't. Yeah, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that bolt specifically, the bolt part of it, it's like 10. They have to identify 10 existing or new trail systems that can have long distance, basically trails developed or maintained or managed on them.
Yeah, that's how I understood it. I think there was I think 10 was the number.
Yeah.
I thought there was some stuff about signage and things like that. There was some other sort of other things, but hopefully it means just a lot more long distance bike trails that can be developed, and there'll be money for it and access, right?
Yeah, there's some stuff in there about allowing. The audio keeps doing this. All right, I'm gonna fix this.
Okay,
we're gonna come back. And we're back.
We're rolling. The dog is still here.
This dog.
He's just
such a good boy.
He's a pretty good boy.
A good boy.
He does love his pets.
Yeah.
That's all he wants in the world, just like the rest of us. We just want to be petted.
Yep. Yeah, the Bolt-X. So there was some stuff in there about like access for like job opportunities for veterans.
Oh, that's cool.
And I read the whole. I like went to the bill.
Oh, nice work.
And I was like, ChatGPT, can you summarize this bill for me?
I was just gonna say, like, that would be a good use of it.
Mm-hmm. And then it pulled up some other bill with the same number about immigration and summarized that.
Oh, interesting.
And then I couldn't get it to find that bill.
Oh. Huh.
And then the ATA released a email. They put out an email yesterday.
Yeah.
That, like, nicely summarized
nice.
all of the things in the bill.
Helpful.
But yeah, because I'm always interested in these bills. I'm always interested in like what are the other things that they're like sneaking in here,
right?
That may or may not positively or negatively impact.
Yeah.
You know, they might put some other random thing in there that you didn't see expected and slip it in there.
Yeah.
Like they did with the freaking Patriot Act.
Oh yeah. Right.
Yeah.
That one.
Yeah, that one. But no, it seemed pretty straightforward, and it seemed like really good in general. And I know for bikepacking routes, it was like a huge. They've been talking about the Bolt Act for a long time.
Yeah, it's
advocating
awesome
for it. So did it? And there was also something in there about permitting.
Yeah.
And easier access
making it
to permits
easier.
for guides.
Yeah. I'll be curious because that was one of the things I was noticing in it, like having seen the effort the last few years to get this thing passed. And I don't know what that is going to look like, but I'm certainly on board with it because I do think permitting is pretty complex and takes a lot of time. And having done a bunch of, I think I managed 8 or 9 permits here at Knowles with every land agency there was, basically. Like we were dealing with BLM, Forest Service, Park Service, and Fish and Wildlife Service, and they're all different. They're all complex. It's interesting. So,
was there one that was particularly more difficult to communicate with?
I mean, a lot of it has to do with who's in the job sometimes, but I would say from my experience over, 12, 15 years of having to deal with land managers, the Forest Service was always the one that more challenging of the agencies to try to get things done on time with and to contact with. And I think, down here we were dealing with the Coronado National Forest, and we also had permits to the Gila National Forest. They're pretty big forests, whereas I'm dealing with the Caribou Targhee in my own business up in Teton Valley, which is a pretty small, comparatively smaller forest / small rural Idaho town. And granted, it took a long time for this prospectus thing to happen, but the communication, very easy to get in touch with the land managers there. Like I've gone out to coffee with the person I'm dealing with my permit with a number of times to talk about the process. And I met with them before I left town to talk about how my season went. Amazing. Whereas down here, we were operating unpermitted because we couldn't get a permit renewal to happen for 2 years on the Gila National Forest. We were okayed to do that, but they just didn't have the bandwidth to deal with the paperwork to do the renewal. So I was like, I mean, they said we're okay. Like, do I need to carry this email into the field with our instructors? So like, if, some kind of ranger comes upon us, but like, you almost never saw rangers out there. So I think it just depends. But it did seem like the Forest Service was always a little bit less funded, and and I think that's only going to get worse. Like, they have a seasonal employee hiring freeze right now. So for lots of forests around the country, it's going to be even harder to get work done because they're not hiring new seasonal employees because of funding. So,
I was tossing around the idea at one point in time of interested in maybe starting a bike packing guiding company. Mm-hmm. Is that, how much more complex is that compared to the guiding that you're doing now?
Well, I have some personal goals to offer some bike packing stuff through my guiding company.
Mm-hmm.
But it's complex because if you're going to charge money and try to make money using any kind of public land, you need to have a permit. And if you are doing a bike packing trip, which bike packing, you can travel pretty far distances. You might be on like many different forests and many different even agencies throughout a route. If you're doing a guided tour, you need to have permits for all of those. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's pretty challenging. Like, if I would love to offer some kind of bike pack offering next summer, and I would need to stay on the Caribou-Targhee National Forest and only use trails and roads that I have a permit to, which limits the distance and the that we can do that.
But that might be okay. If you think about
if it's only going to be a couple days.
A guided bike packing tour is not the kind of bike packing that we've done in the past, right? This is like an overnighter, maybe new people just getting into it, getting their feet wet. The bikes are probably very heavy with lots of stuff.
Yes.
Right. So it's very slow moving. And so
that
might be okay.
I've been talking with Karen Pocock about, her and I we haven't nailed anything down yet, but, we're talking about trying to do a Arizona Trail women's bike pack educational offering down here, using homegrown mountain bike tours permits.
Cool.
So hopefully we're trying to see if we can squeeze something in this spring before it heats up down here, and see if we can get that out into the world. But so we'll see what happens. But that's definitely on my mind, especially offering it to like female identified humans, because I think there's just there's a bigger barrier. There's less females in the sport, and it would be awesome to try to get more of that happening.
Yeah.
But we'll see. Those are on my mind for sure. But
is there like liability problems? Any more liability with like bike packing or multi-day than there is?
I don't know if there's more liability. There is more risk to manage, and there's more things to think about when you're out for longer periods of time. The logistics become more complex as well. The gear and the bags and all the stuff become more complex. But in terms of maybe like
insurance, you know what I mean?
Yeah. My insurance policy for my company already includes overnight trips, and so that's
okay.
Already, but so I don't know what the difference in cost would be if I hadn't put that in there, but that's always been a goal of if I did get these permits to offer something like that. And I didn't have an opportunity last summer to like schedule that into my plan, but I do want to do something this coming summer.
Yeah.
Whether it's just a one night thing to make it pretty easy.
Mm-hmm. Is there a template? There's got to be people. I think maybe there's some groups I've heard on different podcasts, or maybe a guy in Texas that's like a teacher that also, Jared something, y'all can correct me in the comments. Jared Foster, maybe in Texas.
Yeah. Doing some bike pack stuff?
Doing like an educational course.
Oh, cool.
Like a bike packing educational course.
Yeah, I don't know. I know Kate Boyle and Kurt used to do it through Prescott College.
Yeah.
Kate and I did a little one evening intro to bike packing for women, little chat talk thing in Victor, Idaho, in Teton Valley last summer, which was fun. And then Bikepacking Roots has been doing, Kate's been doing some educational webinars, which has been super cool.
Right.
Awesome. So there's stuff around, but I don't know how many people are doing like overnight trips that are educational, like, you know, Western Spirit and like Rim Tours. You know, you can go on a multi-day overnight trip, which is usually supported with vehicle support, like on the White Rim, or maybe it's not vehicle supported, but it's more of a guided tour, which that's sort of in my brain too. But I think this would be, coming from an outdoor education background, the goal would be more to like take people out, teach them the things so that they can go do it afterwards, rather than like, I'm just guiding you along and we're doing everything for you on the way. Right.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. I mean, but aren't you going to get some of that? Like,
yeah. I mean, it's probably a combo.
Were there some notable trips, not trips, but, when you were doing your guiding this year, you know, there must've been a variety of different types of people or skill sets or expectations, I guess. Did you manage the expectations well?
Well, yeah, I didn't really have much guided work up in the Tetons this summer, probably due to marketing and late start. But down here, guiding on mountain bike stuff down here, a lot of the people that are signing up for a guided day trip are, I'd say they're either very beginner and don't have the skills and confidence to like go out on their own in a new place and navigate and that, or they want to get on more technical terrain than maybe they're used to riding and want a guide to show them sort of the goods. Like that's sort of the two ends of the spectrum. That's what I've seen the most of, and those are, again, guided day trip type things, scenarios. So that's mostly what I've been doing down here.
Do you have people on e-bikes sometimes?
There is. I have never done a guided tour on an e-bike, but yes, those do happen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The people that are with you are not on e-bikes and you're on a regular bike? Is that ever happened?
The people I've guided have all been on regular analog bikes.
Yes.
Someone was calling it an acoustic
bikes.
I got really confused when someone kept using that term the other day, and I was like, acoustic is like a sound word to me, so I need to AI that one too. But
acoustic bikes.
But analog, I don't know.
I think
digital analog.
I think that's
I don't know. But anyway, I've only guided people on like bikes that you have, fully human power.
Okay.
But there are, Homegrown has some e-bikes. There are only so many trails in Tucson where e-bikes are allowed, and same in the Tetons. Like a lot of the front country trail systems up there are still not e-bike friendly. So,
but
well, I would not. Again, like as per a permit, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I could not legally guide someone on those trails.
I'm sure they're getting poached all the time, though. Like,
I see e-bikes on them all the time.
Everywhere else is getting poached.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, like there's no regulation, and I see people on them all the time, but I would not.
Right.
I'm a rule follower.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, that would compromise your
it would compromise
livelihood.
my permit for sure.
Yeah, so,
but there are some e-bike trails up in Idaho, but the riding isn't particularly that beginnerish. So it's interesting. People want to be on an e-bike because maybe they don't feel like they have the cardio capacity, but then you end up going on harder trails and they don't have like the bike handling capacity either. So on some level, it's like probably easier to put them on a analog bike and go on the easy like flow trails rather than stuff that's like moto trails where e-bikes are allowed, right?
Right.
So that's a challenge, at least in my area where that would be a thing. I haven't bit the bullet and bought an e-bike yet, but I've thought about it just to have one for guided e-bike tours. Yeah. Which is something that I would offer. But right now, if someone wanted to book one, I'd have to rent the bike for myself. I upgraded my gravel bike this year instead. Yeah. Next year, I'll write off the e-bike maybe. Yeah. We'll see.
So how do you like that? Volt?
Yeah, the new Volt.
Yeah.
Good. I need to get it fit. The fit I was talking about earlier is for that. Like, I've been having some low back issues the last 6 months, which has been a theme for 20 something years. But so it's sort of hurt my back right now. But I don't think it's the bike. It's just probably the fit in my own body. But yeah, so far so good. My first and only and last gravel bike was the first pivot vault. And so, which I think it was a 2015, and it wasn't very adjustable. And so I bought it used online, didn't ride it first, and you couldn't adjust the brake levers, and I have pretty small hands. And so I had that bike for a long time and always felt like I had no control over it. Like I couldn't reach the levers to brake effectively and have good brake control. You could only put up to 40 millimeter tires on it. And so that felt skinny for some, pretty bumpy roads and things like Reddington Pass. And so I was like, I have this gravel road nearby that's pretty fun, but I don't even feel that confident like descending on this bike. And so it also had a really small cassette on the back. And so it's like pretty nice to have this upgrade where I've been able to like pull the brake levers way in. I have 50 millimeter tires on the vault because that's the widest it'll take. And then it has a big ass cassette on the back. I can't like 50,
and a 1x.
something. Yeah, 1x
with
50,
a 50
something on it. So I'm like, wow, I can like pedal up these hills without having to stand up now. And
like a mountain bike cassette on those.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then like a whatever 36 chain ring or something on the front.
So it's been pretty nice upgrade. I mean, comparatively, it's like buying, having a new modern bike all of a sudden.
Yeah, the difference from 40 to 50 is I just put 50s on the Revel Rover.
Yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah,
like I definitely feel like I can handle the bike way better.
Yeah.
I mean, I thought about getting some kind of like cutthroat or somewhere I could put actually like mountain bike, full mountain bike tires on, or twos or wider. But I was like, like I have a mountain bike for that, I don't really see myself bike packing on a gravel bike. Like I'd probably still ride gravel bike packs on a mountain bike just for me, for my like body too. It's crazy. I like went out for a ride last night and my back didn't really hurt at all. And then like the second I rode 2 nights ago, I rode up to Saguaro National Park on the gravel bike, and it was an hour and a half, same distance, and my back was so tight afterwards. And it's like only a slight angle of tilting down more, but I'm like, I don't know what is going on in my body. But I threw my back out like 2 weeks before dawn to dusk.
Right.
Again.
I saw that.
Yeah.
So what were you doing there?
I went to Sedona for Thanksgiving and rode hard and did a bunch of riding. And
you cleaned Highline?
I cleaned Highline, but like literally 5 minutes after I cleaned Highline is when my back seized up. And I don't think I did anything on Highline. I think it was just the like, I think it had just been the week of like riding and being a little undertrained and all of a sudden overtraining. And this same little back tweak I did it last May, and I did it in August too, same spot, just like SI joint stuff. And so definitely thinking about strength training and how do I program some stuff for myself that is going to quit that. I've been doing a bunch of mobility work since this last one. I'm like committed to being consistent with the specific mobility program that I'm paying for online, and I'm hoping that really makes a difference to you. I feel like when you get to your 40s, everything starts tightening up and you can't get away with stuff that you used to be able to. And so it's like, well, I can keep going to the chiropractor, which I still will keep doing because I've been doing that for years. But I also need to try to like fix some root cause stuff, not just like keep getting readjusted when things get out of line. So we'll see if I can make that happen. But I was pretty psyched to just go to dawn to dusk and do the race. Like I had seen the chiropractor 2 days before I left, and he said he told me not to do it, and I was like, but I paid a lot of money for this. So I was like, I'm just gonna go up there and see how it goes, and then I was pretty psyched. I like rode the whole thing. So that was But anyway,
Did you do some Spirit World stuff down near Patagonia before that?
I went down there.
Courses?
I went down there to. I rode the 30 and the 50 so far this year. Not like during the race, but I've just rode the courses. I was down there for the event. I went down to hang out with some friends down there, and then I had to leave the day of the event. I went and did a Knowles rock climbing seminar. Which is a whole nother story of getting myself back into the climbing scene again after a pretty crazy near miss a bunch of years ago. This was my re-entry into rock climbing, but so I missed the event because I had to drive to Las Vegas that day to go to Red Rocks for that little 10-day trip, which wasn't a bad thing. But it would have been fun to do the Spirit World event. It's such a great event. But I was down there for the ATA dinner and fundraising event, and then just
that whole scene, that whole like gravel scene in Patagonia seemed to come out of nowhere.
Yeah, it's awesome. Heidi and Xander have like really done a great job of putting that place on the map.
Yeah.
And starting that sort of community down there. People are like moving there to like live there because of the gravel riding,
That's wild.
I mean, it's a beautiful little town.
I grew up so close to there. Patagonia was always just this like weird, eclectic,
sort of artsy
town.
Yeah.
Like there was Aravaca and Patagonia, and those were the two like out in the country sort of towns.
Yeah.
And then when the AZT started to go through it, it started to build momentum, and then they routed it kind of off of it.
Yeah, you don't even go through it on the race, which is sort of a shame.
It is. It is kind of a bummer.
I know.
Like, I appreciated having that resupply there. Logistically, it makes it extremely, like, way more difficult. You got to carry way more food
all
from
the way
start.
to Rock and K.
Yeah.
It's a long way.
If you hit Rock and K at the right time.
Yeah.
Like, that's a long ways. It's over, it's 100 and...
Yeah, it's a lot
120-mile carry.
Yeah.
Of long miles.
Hard miles, not easy miles.
It's like a 30-hour food carry.
Yeah.
For the fast people.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah.
So I was kind of bummed out by that, but at the same time, it makes it, a little bit more technically challenging. But I was also kind of, I guess the thru hikers and stuff still have it as a gateway community.
Yeah.
Patagonia.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, it's a cool spot down there.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going down there on Christmas Day. I guess it's this next week.
Mm-hmm.
What's today? Saturday?
Yeah.
I don't even
Wednesday.
know. Is it Wednesday, Christmas? I
yeah.
don't know.
Yeah.
The holidays.
Yep.
I can't even do it anymore. But I'm going down to meet up with my friend. We're going to go try to do 100 miles on Christmas.
Awesome.
She's my duo partner for 24 hours this year. So a little training ride. Try to just suffer through Christmas Day. The holidays have been sort of rough for me the last 5 years. So just try to get through them. So it's nice to have something to go do. But it's supposed to be, I don't know, it's been 70s down there the last couple of weeks. It's just really nice down here right now.
Totally. Have you ever been on any segments of the Sky Islands Odyssey loops?
I think I've ridden some of the segments. Actually, one of the things I wanted to do coming back down here for the winter is to ride the Sky Islands route this year. I've never done the east or west loop.
Yeah.
And I've been trying to figure out a time or rally someone to come do that with me. So hopefully I'll get that thing done before I head north again. But the gravel riding is beautiful in that area. It's a special spot.
Totally.
So excited for that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was having the same kind of conundrum on gravel bike, mountain bike. I'm planning on ride across Arizona this year.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
Sweet. That's in May?
Yeah, May. Yeah, it competes with Pinions.
Yeah, I know.
But I'm actually out of town for Pinions this year.
What?
Yeah, I had
Dylan?
I know.
Aren't you the race person?
I'm gonna do I'm gonna be there for the start.
Oh, you will? Okay.
Yeah, but I'm not riding it.
Okay.
I'm gonna ITT it.
Oh, okay.
Probably a week or two prior.
Nice.
And but I'll be there for the grand depart at least to send everyone off.
Yeah.
And then Jess and I are driving. My wife, we're driving to Utah she's doing a 115-mile running race in Utah.
Sweet.
So
good for
that's the
her.
commitment this year is for her.
Well, that's good. Good job.
But it opened up the possibility of doing the grand depart on a ride across Arizona.
Nice.
Which has been on the map for the last few years, but always competed with Pinions.
Right.
So
what day is that? What's the grand depart day?
Shoot, I'd have to
end of May.
I'd have to look it up. It's the beginning. It's a week
the
before.
First week. Yeah.
It's like the 7th or it's that first weekend.
Nice.
But I'm so debating on the Rover with
a
suspension stem.
Yeah.
And 50C tires. When Dana did it, he like the first thing he texted me when he was done was, bring your full suspension bike whenever you do this.
Huh.
But I think it was just
he was tired.
Set the FKT, he was more than tired. He was a disaster.
Well, the post coming out on the last day of that, I just remember Yeah, I remember some of his. He was like epicing that last.
He was a
day.
hot mess.
Yeah, he was. I love
And then
it.
he got to the campsite and like froze
Oh yeah, like
his ass off.
right.
Could
I
like
vaguely
had to
remember
like
all
build a
this stuff.
fire. There's like a picture of him floating around on the internet where he's just like, and he's all swollen.
Oh my
and,
God.
Like wolves were surrounding him, and
That's
I mean it was
awesome.
like
So good.
it was like a classic end of a bike pack race.
Yeah.
You got to suffer some more.
Oh yeah.
You know. Anyway,
The thoughts that go on in your head. I was just thinking back to Dawn to Dust last week, where I remember it must have been lap 4 or 5, where I was like, I hate biking. I never want to do this again.
why am I doing this?
Why am I doing this? It feels awful.
What's
I'm
wrong
never.
with me?
I'm never gonna do a long distance bike race again. Maybe I shouldn't even do the 24 hours in the Old Pueblo this year, even though I've already paid for it. Like that's. I
These are the
definitely had
thoughts.
that thought.
Yeah. So
It's like every
common.
time.
Yeah.
Every time.
And then you finish, and
Yeah,
then
and
you
then you
feel
feel-
some elation.
Yeah.
And you're like in the recovery ecstasy a little bit,
Yeah.
right? And then
You're like,
the
wow.
creep happens. The next one.
You're like, when am I doing it again?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is such a
It's so funny.
predictable, typical thing for every endurance athlete.
Oh yeah. No, it's a good life lesson of like thoughts aren't facts, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was in severe depression, I remember reading thoughts are not facts. You
Mm.
can't believe everything your brain thinks, and especially when you're like not feeling well, right? And so it's like so funny during those moments in the bike race when your brain is like inflamed, right? Just like when you have depression, and it starts telling you things that like aren't real or like are not necessarily things you actually want to believe or think are true. It's so funny.
It's like sabotaging yourself.
Oh, it's totally.
The only difference between the two is you can't eat your way through the depression.
No.
Right?
Well, choosing what you eat wisely does help eventually, but it's not an instantaneous. Like it doesn't. You can't like drink a Coke and
Yeah.
feel better in like an hour. Like
Right. You can't just start
If only.
drinking liquid poison, sugar
Yeah.
poison,
That's so funny.
and just be fine. Yeah.
That's so funny. I'm thinking about. I'm trying to do a May bike pack race this year because
Okay.
I didn't do one at all last year. I had too much stuff going on with the new business and the permits and all sorts of things. So thinking about either Pinions again, which would be try 3 or race 3, which would be good, or the Grand Loop. I think are the two.
Yeah.
And so the Grand Loop might make more sense with depending on when I go back up north, because I'm not sure how long I'm going to be down in Tucson for this year. So it's like driving back to Idaho and Wyoming and then driving back all the way back to Flag might
Right.
not make the most sense. I might be in the field for Knowles for like a month in April too, which one isn't great for training, and two would bring me back up north sooner than I sort of originally thought. So I'm still trying to figure out work stuff, but
Yeah.
I love Pinion so much because I feel like I feel connected to that race, and you and Dana, and also just like the people that show up, because I feel like I've met so many people at that race. So there's a part of wanting to do that one again because it feels more familiar. And then there's the draw of like doing something totally new and different, which would be cool. And the Grand Loop looked hard last year. It was hot, and I'm not like, it would be interesting to.
Bring your hiking shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
a lot of that on it.
Yeah, totally. So we'll see. That's my goal right now. We'll see how the body holds up and life stuff, but
Yeah.
I'd like to do something this year, and I have no chance of doing anything in the summer because of work stuff and business stuff. So it feels like May, and then maybe in an ideal world, maybe another AZT attempt. I shuttled people the last 2 years down there, and I've been like, I want to do it again.
FOMO.
A little FOMO.
Yeah.
Yeah. So probably not the 800 though. Probably the 300 again.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll see. Anyway. Yeah. I don't know.
I got FOMO so bad when I was in the canyon.
Yeah.
Seeing those people
Yeah.
hiking.
Yeah.
Like, I was like, these sick individuals.
I know.
I want to be one of them.
Yeah, I know. It's funny, huh?
Yeah.
And you're like, that they feel so bad in
Yep.
those moments. And you're
Yeah.
like, I want that.
Yeah.
I just don't. It's a weird mindset, right? What is it? What is it about that?
I don't know.
I don't either.
But-
I'm still trying to figure it out.
Yeah. I don't question it anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
You're
It's
just like, this is part of me.
Yeah, totally. 100%.
Yeah. It's a good party of this too, though.
So I wanted to bounce a leadership idea off of you,
yeah.
concept off of you.
The one that you've created in your own mind.
Yeah, it's proprietary in my brain.
Yeah.
So it's called I had to come up with a cool acronym because where I work, there's lots of cool acronyms.
Yeah. Familiar with acronyms from Knowles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And to the point where it's almost like a joke. There's so many acronyms.
Yeah.
So I made this one called NARD.
Okay.
The
not,
NARD.
Not nerd, but NARD.
NARD. You remember when like kids maybe you're like, you're a NARD. You'd like two boys would be fighting and be like, you're a NARD head. You don't remember that word?
I don't remember that word.
Okay, well, I do, and that's where this came from.
Okay.
So this is like a concept that I came up with.
Okay.
You can directly apply it to conflict resolution, or you can likely apply it to a decision-making process when you're being asked to do something or you have to make a decision. There's like a fork in the road, right?
Okay.
And it stands for there's 4 reactions you can have to a situation. So let's take the conflict, for example. So you can have non-action.
Okay.
You can have affection, and I'll go into each one of these. You can have reflection or deflection. So non-action is you just don't do anything. Sometimes the best, in my opinion, action is non-action. You just let something
avoid
play out, de-escalate maybe. Like you let so this would be someone, I don't know, you're doing a customer service position and somebody calls you up and they're really mad about whatever the product or service that they received.
Yeah.
And the first thing you do is you just like let them cool off for like a day, and then you call them back the next day when they're a little bit calmer.
So it's like maybe temporary non-action, not necessarily like you just ignore them and never get back to them.
So sometimes, in my experience in bigger organizations, if you avoid something long enough, it'll solve itself. And sometimes it needed to be solved on its own without your intervention.
Okay.
So it's very like dependent on the situation, right?
Situationally dependent.
Right.
Okay.
Like you just literally avoid something until it's just like it goes away. Right. But that's not always like the best action, right? The next one is affection. And so this is like aligning with the person, saying, I understand you're upset. I had that same thing happen to me last week, and I totally get how you're feeling right now.
Yeah. Some empathy.
Yeah. Being empathetic towards these people.
That happened with my oil change that went awry from Jiffy Lube last year. That guy.
Really?
Oh, yeah. Like the manager, eventually I got someone on the phone and I was trying to like figure out how to get my money back. And he's like, oh, yeah, I had my grandmother had a bad service and it potentially ruined her vehicle. And I was like, it was wild how that made me feel. I was sort of like, oh, this guy gets it. Even though I was sort of like
Were you aware of what was happening?
Yeah, sort of, yeah.
Do you even think it was real, the story he was telling?
I did not question that because I guess I would say I'm on the more gullible side of things or trustworthy side of things. So I sort of believe what people say often. So maybe I shouldn't. He could have totally made that up, but it seemed real.
Yeah.
But yeah, I had that happen to me in a very like stressful customer service interaction where like my brand new truck's engine, like bad oil change. I broke down on the side of I-10, oil like spilling out of my car.
Right.
Thankfully I turned the car off soon enough and I didn't fry my engine, but anyway.
So from his perspective, non-action would have been the wrong thing to do.
Well, there was some non-action. I couldn't get anyone on the phone, and I went and worked a backpacking trip in between, but it was like eventually I got someone on the phone, but I had calmed myself down. Like it probably was good for them because in the moment, like when it first happened, the tow truck hadn't even come up yet, and I had already was calling Jiffy Lube on the phone and trying to like ream someone out.
Right, right.
That wasn't even associated with the thing, but yeah, I can appreciate that. So having affection or trying to sort of like show understanding because that does help de-escalate. conflict sometimes because it makes the other person be human as well, and
Right.
it makes the person that's experiencing the adverse situation feel heard, which can calm them down some and have them feel like you're going to listen and help them.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense.
So
Okay.
I didn't preface this, but usually it's up to you as the person like deploying this strategy, like to kind of have a little bit of emotional intelligence to figure out
Yeah.
what is going to work best in this scenario for that person, depending on
Yeah.
their personality
Right.
type.
And you might not know them that well, depending on the.
Right. So there's all
Interaction.
those variables at
Yeah.
the front, right? You could definitely choose the wrong letter in the acronym.
Right. But then you can quickly shift gears.
You can.
If it's not
yeah.
working.
So the third one is reflection. And so
Okay.
this is basically the opposite of affection, where you just literally dish it back to them. They are blaming something on you, and you say, actually, let me show you why this is something that this person did. Or this is something that you did that was wrong. Very like, you're like a mirror. You're just like, whoa, don't come yelling at me. This is actually your problem.
Bet that one doesn't work super well.
It's a very specific personality type that seems to work on, and it's a big risk.
Yeah, it is a big risk because that can just escalate it if it goes awry, if you're not very tactful.
But some people respond to that. Some people I've found are like, it kind of, it's more of like, we're talking like more of like an alpha sort of scenario,
Yeah.
right? Where they're trying to out alpha you, and
Right.
you got to like alpha them back, and
Yeah.
then they like back off a little bit.
Right.
So it is because if you use affection, people will,
Oh, they'll walk all over you.
they will
Yeah.
take advantage of you.
Yeah.
And then the last one is deflection, and this is like by far my favorite, at least in a bureaucratic corporate environment. And
Yeah.
and that's just like you're just this like wedge driving down the road, and things are just like shooting off over here and over there and over there, and like you're totally just blaming somebody else for the thing.
God.
Or you're just like, oh, that's not my department, or that's
Right.
not my problem.
Right.
Or we don't manage that, or whatever.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
And that is so prevalent in huge corporations.
Oh, I was going to say that. I feel like that's the epitome of like customer service. You think about like healthcare claims and things, and you're like trying to fight some claim or price gouging or something, and there's like,
And they're just like, oh, well, this person coded it this way,
Yeah,
and I can't,
exactly.
sir, sorry, I can't do that. And you're like, let me see your boss. And
yeah, you just
Yeah.
keep getting pushed up the chain, basically. If you
Yeah.
like have the mental capacity and determination as the customer to like keep putting energy into the situation, which can be really hard
Yeah.
depending on what's going on, I have some friends that have a child that's had a rare genetic disease, and like they have been dealing for decades now of like with medical stuff, and like it's lots and lots of money in the healthcare system, and things don't get covered, and things that are keeping their child alive. And I mean, how, like every time something comes, you're like, you have to basically, go into the process and have to fight. And like, how long can you do that for? This is like a years long, it's not going away. Right. So it just, it feels, it's hard. I mean, think about what happened in the United Healthcare CEO, incident. I mean, horrible, tragic incident, and also the reaction of the country and the world to Luigi Mangione in terms of like what he did and how he's being like, people are like looking at him in this like positive light of like he was trying to like change a culture of like healthcare claims and denials and things like that. I mean, it's like sort of wild to watch that whole
these like
thing
Robin
unfold.
Hood vibes,
Yeah.
right? Like that he's like this savior,
Yeah,
or
he's-
this like big like martyr for this message.
Yeah, like people didn't want him to get caught, right?
Yeah, right. Sleuths were internet sleuths were
avoiding.
not. Yeah, but
Wow,
like this
yeah.
dude, the guy that died, it's so complicated. He's not the one just like pulling all the strings, in charge of it. Like, this is a extremely complex system that's been broken for a long time, and it's not.
For
This
sure.
guy doesn't deserve to die, and
no.
like his family doesn't deserve that because
No.
of a message that someone's trying to send.
No. But the healthcare system is broken and he's in charge. So it's like such an interesting scenario, right? Like what is going to make this thing change, right? And I don't know. That's a complicated one to talk about, but it's like what's going on in the real world related to that story I was just telling, in terms of like healthcare claims and people getting denied and having to fight and like as a customer trying to push back all the time and getting that deflection it's hard, right? And if it's a one-off, it's like, okay, I can deal with this. But if that's like your life because you're dealing with chronic illness or whatever, and you have to do this all the freaking time, it's exhausting, right? So
well, it's almost like so I was wondering if there's anything you think that I missed in like responses
in responding to conflict
to like, but it could also I think apply to like not just like direct conflict, because I think de-escalating is probably the first thing you want to do in conflict at all times, and usually non-action can achieve that. Like it can just like give everybody some space for a second.
Non-action. I think one of the other things I think about like Knowles when we teach conflict because that's a part of a Knowles course or life where conflict happens, right? But you can let people vent and like sort of empty out what's going on for them, and giving when it's like two people, maybe there's like in a customer service situation there's a hierarchy, but like in a group dynamics sometimes there is, but sometimes there's not, right? And so letting each side sort of, hey, this is how this is impacting me, this is how I'm feeling, this is why I'm frustrated, like that, instead of the non-action, which is avoiding and which does de-escalate things. Like, how often do you get a chance to just talk to someone and like a friend or a coach or a therapist, when it feels really good to just like blah, get it all out there? It like brings your nervous system down, right? And so I'm not sure, that might be the empathy piece in your acronym, or affection piece, where it's like it's like letting people,
I guess you could make it NARD. It could be empathy.
Ooh, empathy. Yeah. That'd be better. Yeah.
Affection's kind of weird.
Affection's weird because it feels like you're showering the person with love. Or whatever.
I just really want to say NARD.
I know.
Yeah, but NARD.
I don't know.
NARD's pretty cool.
I mean, basically putting yourself into the other person's shoes.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Which if you can do that, that does help the other person feel like they're being heard.
If they understand that that's what's happening, right?
Yeah, and a lot of times the people are having conflict because they're not understanding what the impact is that they've had on each other. And if you can explain that and then like really actually shut your mind off from what response you're going to have next and listen and really think through, God, what does it really feel like to be that other person right now with this situation, that usually can really help de-escalate and or get through conflict, like getting the other person's shoes. So
All right. Empathy.
Empathy.
We'll convert that one to empathy. It's NARD.
I'm sorry, you have to get rid of NARD.
Yeah, it was short-lived. Shout out NARD if you know.
At least NARD's
NARD
still
means.
a word.
Yeah, NARD.
Yeah,
NARD is totally a word.
Like J
from
or
my
something,
childhood. I think it meant to represent you're a ball sack. You're a NARD. You know what I mean? In like young boys, like
it's probably what I've never heard.
yeah, like like shooting BB guns at each other and stuff.
Yeah,
I
don't know. That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, I think that could be applied not just to conflict. Conflict is an easy win for that. I think like you could also apply it to like decision making process, right? You can like when you're faced with a hard decision, you can like respond in certain ways, right? If you need to like route something, or you're being asked a weird question or whatever, you can. I think that has some impact there. I don't know. I just came like up with this. We'll see.
I like how you're thinking systematically about leadership skills. We talked about leadership stuff last time.
Yeah.
Which was cool.
Yeah.
So.
So I think that like also understanding the spectrum of responses from people,
Yeah.
even whether or not they may know what they're doing. I think you do those things naturally, one of those 4 things. And so like if someone's responding to you, if you try to like put them in one of those buckets and you say, oh, they're doing this.
Yeah.
That's like
that
emotional
helps.
intelligence, right?
That does help.
Yeah.
You understand where they're coming from or what kind
Right.
of person they're going to be.
Right.
I'm a conflict avoider. I don't like conflict.
Yeah.
For years I've like, I just like people to be happy, you know, and get along. I mean, that's just, I don't know where that came from. Probably part of the phone thing where I'm like, I don't like to talk to people. And like,
Yeah. Have you fired people before in a job like face to face?
I've never had to follow through with it, but I haven't, I was close in one situation.
Yeah.
But I haven't had to. But interesting thing, I always looked at that quality of like the conflict stuff as a negative thing. And I wouldn't say it's like, certainly not fully positive, but years ago, and I've done this quiz testing like a number of times, which is called Strength Finder. It's like a Gallup thing. Have you ever done it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, through work.
Yeah. And so I've done that through Knowles, and sometimes I use it now with life coaching clients, which basically like you take this little quiz and it like helps you figure out what your strengths are, and it like defines the strengths. And the whole theory is if you're, I mean, it's usually for like career-based stuff, but if you're using your strengths in your job, you're way more likely to like your job and be engaged, right?
Interesting.
And so for people that are like thinking about a career change or like maybe they're unhappy in their job, it's like if you don't even know what strengths you have and you can't define those and you're not self-aware about them, then it can like, you might not even realize you're not using any of the things that you're really good at. But if you're like doing things that you're good at and you feel like positive about because you know you're good at them, you just show up and you do your job better, then you're much more likely again to be happy. And so anywho, I've done this test a bunch of times over the years, probably like 5 or 6 times now. And it's always fascinating, like different, again, back to the chapters thing, like different chapters, you sort of show up differently and you have different life impacts. But for men, I think the first time, like the first like 4 or 5 times I did it, my top one was harmony. And I was like, oh, that's so fascinating. And it was like this positive look at conflict avoidance or like not feeling comfortable in conflict. And it was like, oh, well, if I look at it in a positive light, like I am good at trying to bring people together and get them to see each other's side of things to create harmony. And that's something that I like to do, and I like things in harmony. And maybe that helps me as as when I was like a manager of people, right? And so it was cool to like put a positive twist on this, like what I perceived as like a negative personality trait, that I had saw myself in that light. Like I didn't like it when people were upset, you know?
Yeah.
And it's like, well, and like maybe I have a good ability to like take people that are upset and like help facilitate like conflict resolution or something. So
Yeah.
I don't know, sort of interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah.
So just lean into those things. Like,
Yeah.
Like you lean into it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
I guess. I mean, I've gotten better at dealing with conflict over the years, so I feel like I'm way better than I used to be, but it's still like not my default state. Like I'm not a boat rocker, you know?
Yeah.
Like I'm not the person that would like, you were talking about what was the third one on your
Reflection.
Yeah, where you're like, sometimes you need to sort of like reflect it
Yeah.
back to that
Yeah.
person, and you were like maybe sort of having this back and forth where you're like
You're like
pushing.
alpha battling.
Oh yeah, like
Yeah.
you should have seen me in that oil change scenario with Jiffy Lube.
Yeah.
Like that was like, it's like not my normal personality to get into like a conflict, like back and forth discussion. And so I was like avoiding trying to make this phone call to this manager for like weeks because I didn't want to have to be yelling because I just don't, that's just not how I like show up in the world. And even when the guy used that little empathy tool on me about his grandmother's car, I was like, oh,
You crumbled.
I
That
crumbled.
was such bullshit. He
crumbled.
totally made that up. He recognized what you were reflecting.
I crumbled
And
so hard.
he used empathy.
Oh yeah, and I was such a sucker. Such a sucker.
That Jiffy Lube middle manager guy is a genius.
know.
He's a
This is why I bring.
he got you.
I don't know. It reminds me of why I bring
Oh, so funny.
why I bring like men with me to car dealerships to buy vehicles or to get work done on my vehicle. And I don't know if it's not necessarily a female trait, but
Yeah, generally. Maybe.
but I'm not a haggler. Like I'm not a
Yeah.
like I feel like I'm just interesting. I mean, it's good self-awareness, but
I think gender does play you definitely different genders generally lean into different things
Sure.
in the nerd. Like I think that females generally want to like keep groups together and keep back in like a hunter-gatherer tribal sense, they want to keep the bonds of the tribe together, right?
I would say probably tend to be more of the like relationship masters in the group, right?
Yeah. Right.
Yes, for sure.
Right.
I mean, you think about, I was on a life coaching like training call or like an educational thing the other night, and I think it was run by 2 females, and there were probably 15 people on the call, all females. Like every person on the call was female identifying from my perspective or like how I saw them through Zoom screen. And it's just interesting because you think about like, I don't know, nurses, life coaches, therapists, like often more female identifying people in those roles than male.
Yeah.
And you think about like, there's plenty of male occupations and things where there are way more men in the roles.
Yeah.
And it's not like it's a blanket statement. I'm just saying that's like the reality.
Yeah.
That I've
and
experienced.
that's okay to talk about that reality. Like
It's okay. That's just the reality of the world.
Yeah.
It's just like how many women line up for a bike pack race versus men. Maybe if there's 5 to 10 women and there's 40 men, it's like, sweet, look how many women are in this race. It's
Right.
never 50-50.
Right.
And that's just the way of the world.
Right.
So,
Well, and I think maybe generally speaking, some men are more inclined to do more risky jobs and activities that are more risk prone.
potentially, yeah. Or technical.
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
physical,
Well,
ones that use physical strength and like physical labor.
All I can think of is underwater welding for some reason. Like or like oil rigging or something like
Sure,
this.
yeah.
Or like
physical labor.
or like crab boats on Deadliest Catch, There were like a few women in those jobs, but
Right.
like it just overwhelmingly was male dominated in
Sure.
those career paths. And,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That's just, we don't have to deny that that's a reality. And then there are going to be like outliers outside of those and crossovers.
Yeah.
Right? And that's totally cool.
I mean, I think you can ask questions about why do you think that is the case, but
Yeah.
whether it's, like what the job is or just the dynamics of the world and what's led to that point, right?
Right. Yeah. There's going to be socioeconomic reasons for some
Yeah.
of it. And then there's going to be like genetic reasons for some of it.
Sure, yeah.
And then there's going to be
Yeah.
like pockets in different countries that are like societally different.
Yeah.
Right, because of the norms in those countries.
Yeah.
And so that's very complex, but yeah, and we're generalizing a lot here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So let's wrap up here. I wanted to do I wanted to bring back my bonus segment. We're going to do a different bonus segment this time.
Okay.
It's called Guess That Gen Z Word.
Oh, no.
All right. This is only the
I'm already stressed.
second time.
Wait, who'd you do it with first, John?
No, a guy named Ryan Hansen, who's an
Okay.
ultra runner.
Oh, okay. How'd he do?
He did pretty good. I would say 50-50.
God.
I threw him some curveballs though, so
Okay. I need Brady's help on this one. Actually, I need Siri's help.
no
Where's my-
Siri, no
where's
phone
my
a friend,
phone?
no phone a friend. Okay, the first term is called catch these hands. Please define catch these hands. I can use it in a sentence.
Yeah, use it. Please use it in a sentence.
You and that Jiffy Lube. How am I going to phrase this? I don't even know how to do this. I'm almost 40, guys. That Jiffy Lube guy was about to catch these hands from you. That's the best I got.
Oh man. Maybe like being aggressive, like about to like get yelled at or something.
Yep.
Is that true?
To start a fight, this term is generally used in a contentious manner.
All right.
So you're about to catch these hands.
All right.
Okay, snatched. This is a good one.
I mean, take something from someone. Snatched it out of your hands. Is that right?
Nope.
Yeah. I was going to say, I feel like that's not Gen Z.
If someone is looking snatched, they
Oh.
look really good, particularly their outfit. So,
Oh, no.
I'm looking snatched today.
Yeah.
Is like, I
Super-
got this bikepacking route shirt on.
super
It's snatched. All right, last one.
Oh,
And then we
God.
won't make this torture go on any
Okay.
longer. Living rent free. So let me use it in a sentence for you. There's that underwater welding job. No, that's not very good. That's not a very good sentence. This one's a hard one.
I mean, not paying rent.
It's pretty on the nose. It's pretty on the nose. If someone is living rent free in your head,
Oh, in your head.
yeah,
Yeah. It means they're like, that person can't stop thinking about them.
yeah,
Yeah.
word for word,
Yeah. I mean,
beautiful.
without the
You
yeah.
got it. Sorry, I didn't. Yeah, I didn't.
That's okay.
I-
But
yeah.
no, in your head, I've heard that before.
Okay,
actually.
living rent free in your head.
Yeah.
Can't stop thinking about it.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh my
well, that
gosh.
wraps up our Guess that Gen Z word segment.
Thank God.
Thank you,
That's
Lindsay.
over.
let's do some shout outs and then let's go get some food.
All right.
So your website, lindsaynohl.coach.
Yep. That's my
LINDSAYNOHL.
Yep. That's my life coaching website. And if for writing strength programs for folks that are interested in workout stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Instagram, lindsay.nohl.
Yep.
Instagram, dirttown.adventures.
Yep.
That's your guiding company.
Yep. And I have a website for that too.
And that's just dirttownadventures.com.
.com. Yep.
Cool.
.com.
And then Knowles.
Yeah. Nohl, still working for Knowles.
Yeah.
Doing field instructing stuff. Yeah. Work for Ladies All Ride, which is also a women's skills clinic company that runs clinics in the summer. So awesome if you're female out there and want to go get some skills on a 2-day clinic. Check them out. Homegrownmountainbike.com or mtb.com. We offer basically like guided tours, skills clinics, skills lessons, bike rentals, and shuttles in the Tucson area.
Yeah, I think Homegrown was a shuttle I took
Yeah,
for
for
AZT.
the AZT. Yep.
So
Yep. We shuttled some folks
And-
this year too.
Tara, is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the one I think who I emailed with to
Yep.
set that up. So
Yep.
she's the owner.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah.
Sweet.
So many websites, so many
Yeah,
things.
you do a
I
lot
have
of
like
stuff. You're
6
busy.
jobs. Oh, it's
You got a lot of missions out here.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It would be nice if one of them made some money one of these days.
Yeah, well,
you know.
you're diversifying, right?
I got the diversified portfolio.
You're awesome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Back at you.
Yeah. No, it's always a pleasure to talk with you. and-
Yeah. Nice to be a repeat guest.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll listen to this one sooner than 4 months this time
Yeah.
after it comes out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's always
Last time was a
Yeah.
little more intense though.
totally.
You always,
Yeah.
when you're talking about scary stuff like that, it's like hard to know how it's going to impact you or what people are going to think of it. So
Yeah.
I feel like this was a little bit more just, I mean, it was good topics, but I wasn't talking about, being locked up in a treatment center with severe depression
Yeah.
this time. So that's good.
I went home after that episode and
Yeah.
I was pretty like mentally drained for like
Yeah.
a couple of days.
Well,
I was
yeah.
like trying to process all the new information coming in and just like it
Well,
was a
yeah,
lot.
because you shared some stuff too, and so
yeah.
I think anytime you do that, it's a lot. It's a lot emotionally, and even just listening to that kind of stuff is hard. Life is hard sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's nice when you can talk about drinking Coke out of your Camelback
yeah,
instead.
100%. So yeah, it's just I'm really happy to see you're doing well and you're
Thanks.
just pushing forward and
Yeah.
like everything's staying on the rails and going down the tracks as much as we can.
Exactly. Yeah. Doing my best. That's all you do is just keep showing up every day and trying to do your best and keep putting the pieces in play and see, life's an adventure and you never know really what's going to happen. So that's, I guess, what keeps it entertaining.
Yeah.
So
totally.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we won't have an awkward out this time.
Oh, right.
So yeah, because we didn't really know how to finish last time. So thanks, Lindsay.
Thank you.
Let's go get some food.
All right. Sounds good.
I wanted to let you know a few different ways that you can support this podcast. Of course, you can like, subscribe, and share with your friends. Tell other people about it. Tell your friends and family. If you think these conversations I'm having are valuable as I think they are, share it. Send it out. Ask them to subscribe. That would be amazing. That's a free way that you can support. Another way you can support is by financially support is by becoming a member on YouTube. Those links are always in the description of all the videos. And YouTube members do get some extra perks like member shout-outs during the podcast, priority reply to comments, and best of all, you get early access to new videos that I'm releasing. You can also, if you don't want to sign up for a recurring membership, you can also show me your support by sending a one-time gift using what YouTube calls the Super Thanks feature. So when you're watching a video, down at the bottom, there's the little buttons, the thumbs up, thumbs down button. And right next to that, there is a heart with a little dollar sign in the middle, and it says thanks next to it. That is the Super Thanks button. So if you click that, it'll allow you to give a one-time gift, financial gift of your choice. And it's just incredible. Like seeing the support that I've gotten so far from both members and from Super Thanks is just amazing, and it is definitely allowing me to keep this thing rolling down the tracks. So thank you to everyone who has already supported the podcast, and I can't thank you enough. Thank you.